in the month of June. Welcome, welcome. SandCity Sports, let's go across. Oh, yeah, Facebook is looking good. We had technical difficulties. So, as they say, it's been a long time. Yes. Yay. And the league is coming. Last day in June. Beautiful day here in the neighborhood. Yes, sir. IG. Yup. Our socials are good. See what's going on Twitter. That's me. That's me, your boy. Cape Cod Kid is in the building. We gotta, okay, gotta switch it up. Had to do some. Let's go to the channel. YouTube is good. And let's get Twitch in order. Hey, it's a beautiful thing. Had technical difficulties the other night. And for the time being, I'm not seeing any technical difficulties. And so we're gonna keep on with the positive energy. Because that definitely threw me off a little bit. You know, you get everything set up, and then you're not able. See in the chat, what's going on, Chris? Free agency is smoking hot. Certainly the Denver Nuggets made some power moves. We're going to touch on that. It also reflects on what's happened, right? Because moves has already been made here in the Commonwealth. Can't go back, even though that's what I would advise my New York Knicks to do, is to go back, you know, in terms of what. So Denver, right? You can't pay 4 guys, I thought. Second apron, you couldn't pay 4 guys. But Joker's getting his money. Murray's getting his money. Gordon is getting his money. And now Cam Johnson. An upgrade as far as I'm concerned. This is a win-win in terms of the Denver Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr. wants to cook. Let's put you on the big stage in the Big Apple, okay? In BK, all right? Which would be Brooklyn by itself would be top 10 largest cities in the country. Okay, but it's part of the big. So Michael Porter Jr. wants to cook. Let him cook. Cam Johnson, come on over and compete for a championship. As far Denver paying 4 guys, right? Competing for championships, but the Celtics couldn't pay 4 guys. You couldn't pay the JB, JT, Derek White, and Drew, allegedly, supposedly. Okay, but Denver's doing that and competing for a championship. So we're gonna dive deep into that. Number of other moves. Not Clarkson to the Knicks. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Westbrook and Clarkson to the Knicks, and we are gonna get to the intro. It's not, the math ain't mathing for me. I'm sorry. You know, we need what? Okay, so Clarkson is 6th man of the year candidate, fill it up guy, an additional score, fine. Landry Shamet can get buckets. Deuce comes off the bench to get buckets. Tyler Kolek, up and coming point guards, to get buckets. Okay. Now these guys, Tyler is up and coming. He's going to take time, but I wasn't aware we were hurting for offense. I didn't know that we needed more scoring when you have 2 starters in the All-Star game. Mikal Bridges can get buckets. The last OG was getting buckets, right? The Knicks bench, now, it's good because Jordan Clarkson's better than all those guys, and he's essentially a 6th starter. But that does not negate the vacuum of leadership, okay? Like Jordan Clarkson, if you put him on this Knicks team, you know, he would have been a better option than Landry Shamet. Okay, fine. even though Landry Shamet has been known to come in and get buckets. He's a better option than Deuce McBride, but Deuce, can't score at times. And again, with a capable coach, an elite coach, I said what I said, elite. Tom Thibodeau's an elite coach, people. Okay, and maybe absence making the heart grow fonder, and that's how the Knicks are going to have to learn. But he's elite. That's why Tim Thibodeau, brought prosperity back to New York. Because where was New York before Tom Thibodeau? And who was Julius Randle before he came under Thibodeau's leadership? I'll wait. Jalen Brunson started to shine with the Mavericks. Under Tom Thibodeau, he's an all-star. Under Tom Thibodeau, he's the clutch player of the year. But people in the Big Apple have seemed to forgot that. How quickly, right? What did we learn from The Sopranos? You're only as good as your last envelope. In officiating, I refereed today. A couple things I need to work on in my officiating. You're always getting better. Okay, but you're only as good as your last whistle. So that's the situation in New York. Apparently, 1 quarter away from a Game 7 chance to go to the NBA Finals isn't good enough. Okay, Westbrook, Clarkson, fine. Bring them in. But again, it's now you're going to need some leadership and for them to understand their role. Westbrook, I don't know, things, Denver bringing back Bowen, who was a Mike Malone guy who's going to help them. Cam Johnson is huge. Westbrook was working in Denver, last I checked, since they took Oklahoma City to 7 games and had them on the ropes in many points in time during that series. Denver gave Oklahoma City their greatest challenge in the playoffs, in my view. Okay, Indy, but we didn't get a chance to see the Game 7 that we wanted, unfortunately. And Indy, it's debatable. Okay, Indy, they had some blowouts. Certainly the coronation, people thought it was a coronation in Game 6. They came up off the ropes firing. Didn't get a chance to see Halliburton came out in Game 7. We didn't get a chance to see the Game 7 that we wanted. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about Brook Lopez to the Clippers. I like it. Clippers, they're just okay. Zubac starts. Lopez comes off the bench. Are the Clippers a championship team? No. Okay, but they can take a championship team to 7 games. The Clippers are the Miami Heat of the Western Conference. They don't believe in tanking. And they show these teams that waste entire seasons, i.e. the Utah Jazz, i.e. the New Orleans Pelicans. Who knows what the heck is going on in Washington or Charlotte. Charlotte a little bit more because Charles Lee, somebody I believe in. But, right, the Clippers, they're just always, it's like the Heat. The Heat they've been to 2 finals since LeBron. Where are the analytics people? Analytics people run the show in Boston, I guess, because you got rid of a championship team when you got rid of Jrue Holiday. I'll go toe-to-toe, 10 toes down. People in Boston all of a sudden talking about Jrue Holiday being old at 36. Appreciate you, Benito. All of a sudden, 36 is old in the NBA. We talked about this. Kevin Durant is 37, but Houston is putting their championship aspirations on his back. Never mind, you can't touch anybody and you never play as it is. So you can play. Tom Brady's in the NFL till 45. Hot take was dead wrong talking about Tom Brady making a comeback. That was too scorching hot, and it didn't. So that was just a bad take on my part. But the theory is not wrong. In terms of these guys, you can play longer and longer. Now, obviously, Father Time is undefeated. I get it. Father Time is undefeated, right? But Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls in his mid 40s with the TB12 method, with all of the dieting and all the rest of that stuff that you do. So again, back to Jrue Holiday. Now all of a sudden he's old at 36 because the Celtics want to save a couple dollars and close the championship window. Stupid money. Stupid. Stone, as they say in The Wire. Stone stupid. And I'm 10 toes down on that. That's where I've been. That's where I'm staying. I'm just a guy, and there's a lot of, obviously Boston is known, But it's not just me that's saying this. This is Boston royalty. Paul Pierce has is of the same view. Save a couple dollars here and there. You could have saved yourself a couple dollars again beforehand. Because right, second apron, people have to take less money. We've gone over this. People have to take less money to keep championship teams together. You'll get the money back on the back end. That's what the Knicks are doing. They're going to continue to do that. Brunson did it. Mikal Bridges is going to do it to keep the group together. This all went out the window. Houston with Clint Capella. We are going to get to the intro. Chris keeps bringing up good point after good point after good point. You know, it's just uncertain. So I like Clint Capella for Houston. Obviously, they got Sengun there. You know, there's rumblings. There's these rumblings, you know, about these moves involving JB in Boston, which is more stupidity. You get rid of the glue in Jrue Holiday, and now you just want to, you know, keep moving. So there's rumblings about, okay, they're going to trade JB for Sengun. Yeah. You should keep young talent, JB and JT, with the veteran leadership that you had, Jrue Holiday and Derek White. And you have 2 more years minimum. 2 more years minimum to compete for a championship. If you would now, who knows what they're going to, I mean, now, okay, but it's just ridiculous. Anthony Simons, good young player, scoring. He's a scorer. He wants to put the ball in the basket. The Celtics already have plenty of offense. They have plenty of offense. JB, JT, Derek White, there's plenty of offense. So now is there going to be a competition between Anthony Simons and Derek White for shots? Because Anthony Simons, I got, you know, rather than Jrue Holiday, who's better than both of them. Jrue Holiday's better than Anthony Simons. He's better than Derek White. I said what I said. Period. There's no 2 ways about it. It's not negotiable as far as I'm concerned. Who would you rather build a team with? Jrue Holiday or Devin Booker? Devin Booker, yes. Who made the winning plays in the NBA Finals to secure the victory? Devin Booker or Jrue Holiday? Oh, yeah, Jrue Holiday made those plays. Who made the game-winning plays against the Indiana Pacers, even though they weren't going to win the series under any circumstances? Oh, Jrue Holiday made those plays. Okay? Now the question is, who's going to be likely to win a championship first? Who will win a championship first, Jrue Holiday or Paul Pierce? My money's on Jrue Holiday. Excuse me, I said Paul Pierce. What am I doing? Jason Tatum. Jrue Holiday is going to win another championship before the Young Lions for the Celtics. He will find a home and help that team win a championship before the Celtics find someone to replace him to win a championship. Okay, let me get to the intro. A lot of things we're gonna go over in more detail in terms of free agency and all of this musical chairs stuff. But let's Chris bring in solid point after solid point after solid point. I hope everybody out there is doing SandCity. We're here and we're in the building. Okay, technical difficulty. Shout out to Riverside. Hopefully those are in the past. You know, it was a little bit. You know, last episode we tried 3 times and it just wouldn't. The math wasn't mathing, but you know, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we can get back to making things do what they do. Let's get the volume right. But a happy Monday for the working class heroes out there. I can't travel too far from the working world. I'm doing my part-time. I refereed today. But it is, you know, nice time, you know, a little bit of vacation time, but you can't let your guard down. Can't do too much vacation. Let's get it. SandCity, what? Hey. And we to the business. Me, Todd Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. SandCity's in the building. We're bringing you all the sports and current events, news, stories. Lock in with us. Hey. Monday was good. Heading into Juleezy, Bodiezy. Turning up here on the Cayman Islands. Wait all year. For these first days in July. You gotta make hay while the sun shines. Somebody once told me. What? And so welcome. Let's go across the board, see how we're doing on our socials. Facebook is good. The IG is good. I'm not there yet on the Twitter. I'm not there yet in terms of the Twitter is concerned. Couple people, I appreciate you on Twitter. Benito, appreciate you. Lock in. Let me know. Talking a lot. My man Chris is delivering a lot of storylines in terms of free agency and the changing face of the NBA. So we're going to lock in there. Little bit of NFL. Get into some NFL preview as the season is on the horizon. Some baseball. The rich continue to get richer in baseball. So the powers that be on the coast, Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, others, Braves down south. Talk a little bit of baseball. So on and forth. But welcome. Indeed. Let's get it. Let's get it for you on the screen. Okay, because the league, yes, sir. Preview is good. And this is, by the way, I hope, right, the nice, we got the beach, the sun is shining. I did not give myself, I went down a rabbit hole and I was working on, some of the work that I do. Sports fanatic, lover of history. So fortunate to work on the local Athletic Hall of Fame, in my hometown. So I was just doing some archival work, which I love to do. You always have to give yourself that buffer. 15, 30 minutes on the one side, 15, 30 minutes on the other side. I did not do that. So I was white knuckling it to my game, trying to get there, want to get there a little bit early. I was cutting it close. And so I would, go by the beach. That was the back roads. Avoid the main roads. I take the roundabout route around the beach, but it's not the roundabout route anymore because, of course, the tourists are flooding into the beaches. It was a sunny day. So I was a little bit frustrated and should have been mad at myself, right? What did Leo Tolstoy say? Everybody thinks of changing the world. Nobody thinks of changing their self. Okay, I had to look at the mirror, man. It's not the tourists. They're supposed to drive 15 miles an hour, past the beach. That's why they pay the money to come here. Never mind me. I'm trying to juke and jive on the back roads, but it wasn't to be. I had to fall back and let the tourists have their experience. So there's even the back roads right now are crowded on the Cayman Islands, but that's the price we have to pay for the summer season, and it's well worth it. Okay, so yeah, I want to talk because the Denver Nuggets. I did this is let's get it for you on the screen. Denver Nuggets. This is a power move, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. See if we got the Fab Four. Let's get it up there. A lot of mock trades. No. Let's just get the actual trade. Let's get the actual trade. We know who we have to go to. All right, let's get it up there on the screen and go ahead and break this down because all right, so we're talking about fantastic, things that are fantastic as in force. Okay? right? You got the Joker and Murray and all of this talk. Hasselbeck, Chris. Yeah. Chris is bringing up some really good points, just relative to the culture. Matt Hasselbeck and others is over on Nantucket. This is, you know what I mean? It goes fast, so you have to, life goes fast. But what I'm getting at relative to the Cape is this week. So the 4th is on Friday. Is the Heights. This is as rocking as the Cape is going to get. 4th of July starts, and so the folks that vacate, because people, to your point, Chris, about Hasselbeck, the Cape is interesting, and it's a cool thing. What am I getting at? You go to Hyannis Airport, which is a smaller airport. We're starting to get the bigger flights from the major cities, but that's, the evolution. It's a small airport, but you can go into Hyannis Airport in December and see Bill Belichick chilling, waiting for his flight to Nantucket. Right? So people will come to the Cape in the off season just to kind of get away and refresh themselves. Belichick is coaching the Patriots. He'd be over here in February, March, after the knockdown, drag-out season, after we won the Super Bowl, come over to Nantucket to rest and rejuvenate. Now, anybody that has that second home that's on the Cape, which is quite a few people, quite a few second homes, Chris, to your point, they're here. You don't pay that money and those taxes and, what you have to pay for that second home on the Cape and not be there for the 4th. Okay, all the other parts of the year, it's cool. Your little shoulder season in October, November. Your little, March, April getaway when the weather's not great, but you just need to get away from society, and just that's like the rustic Cape, just to get my woosah going on. But now it's to see and be seen, folks. My buddy Endicott, my good buddy Endicott, who was a fisherman for many years. So the yachts are in full display. People are on it, and so Hasselbeck and everybody else, 'tis the season. So it goes fast. Like I say, I keep saying that, and I'll just conclude because for local people, this is when you have to make your money as well. So the business is, you're making, you have to make 12 months, 8 months of income in this 2-month window. So it's just gangbusters. So you locals can't necessarily always enjoy it to the fullest. You certainly enjoy it paying your bills for the whole year. But it's all good. So look, as I said, Oklahoma City, it's looking like the NFL in terms of what it's going to take for them to repeat. Do they have the horses? They most certainly do. But this is a power move because Denver got better, and they were already, very good, championship grade good. Would it have been an upset similar to the Baltimore Ravens not even making the conference finals? Like, it was an upset, and it's upsetting. But Denver had Oklahoma City on the ropes after they fired Mike Malone. And without some of the pieces that Mike Malone wanted, i.e. Bruce Bowen coming back. So they're adding depth with these guys that they're getting. And they're just, Cam Johnson, Porter, it's going to take him a little time. And I think it'll be seamless because it's, Murray, Joker, he's just a laid back guy. He's a team first guy. He shares the ball. Okay. But Cam Johnson is going to give you a little bit more defense, a little bit more grit and grind. Michael Porter Jr. is more of just a pure scorer. He can do those other things. You can't teach the height, 6'9". Like, he wouldn't have fallen to Denver if he didn't have the degenerative issues. Denver took a flyer on him, and they betted correctly because the degenerative issues that plagued him in his 1 year of college have kind of worked himself out, and he's been mostly healthy after redshirting his first 2 or 3 years. Okay, but that said, Porter Jr. he's an offensive guy. He doesn't, the height and the size, he's not as committed to defense as a Jason Tatum has been over the course of his career to really lock in on that side of the ball and impact the game on that side of the ball as much as he could with his 5-star athleticism. So Cam Johnson will do that. So now and he can score. And he's going to have scoring opportunities playing with Joker, who, okay? And what I said about why I've been, and I'm going to keep it 100, disappointed in Anthony Edwards these last 2 postseasons for not going into, MVP mode, for not going into domination mode, for not going into LeBron James 07 Detroit Pistons mode. Anthony Edwards clearly has that gear. Okay, Michael Jordan, 1986, 60, mode. Anthony Edwards has that gear athletically. Intellectually, he doesn't have it. I said what I said. He's a good guy. He's overcome things in his life. He don't have the eye of the tiger. I haven't seen the eye of the tiger from Anthony Edwards. I've seen it from Luka Doncic, who is maybe, if there's 5 stars, Luka's a 3-star athlete. Okay? And but Luka has 5-star skill. And then Luka also has 5-star chip on his shoulder. Right? Like Luka Doncic does not like to lose. He's a sore loser. So much so that he elevates his game to levels he's a gamer. And he's proven it throughout his career, beating teams. Doesn't get enough credit. Again, these spin doctors and this reconstruction that we do that makes no sense. Like all of a sudden, the whole crazy narrative that people just haven't bought and aren't buying and didn't buy, now those things have been kind of assuaged because Dallas was gifted Cooper Flag. So those real, raw, angry emotions in Dallas are kind of under the surface because of the gifting, as far as I'm concerned. But Luka, right? He's a winner. He's a winner. I've said what I've said. I continue to say it. He needs coaching and leadership. That's the issue. With the Lakers, JJ just ain't ready. Okay, Luka needs Jason Kidd. Luka needs Rick Carlisle. Right. That's Luka needs leadership. More so than LeBron. Who also, right? What does this have to do with Denver? Right? Joker showed the world this year that bottom line, I don't care regular season, I don't care MVP to Shea, I don't care if we fired our coach. I'm not having it. Joker went into not having it mode against Oklahoma City in stretches in that series and just dominated. Was like, you know what I mean? Look across at Chet Holmgren, who we all know is lighting the ass. That boy lighting the behind. Now, this brave Chet Holmgren's also a very skilled defender. He rebounds. You can skinny up and be a successful like that. It's been proven. Skinnying up is more, you're more likely to have a long career by skinnying up rather than bulking up. In this brave new world of an NBA, never mind going back all the way to Greg Oden. That's how the logic has changed. Durant was supposed to be fragile. Oden was supposed to be built for tough. The reverse was true and is true. So all of these plyo, I can't even pronounce all the things that they're doing, but the stuff with agility and how these guys, we don't see guys having microfracture surgery anymore. That used to be a huge deal. It doesn't happen anymore for whatever reason. But guys that have the gazelle frame, the marathon runner frame, are proven to be more durable, i.e. Chet Holmgren, i.e. Durant, Wemby, so on and forth. Joker, who got himself in tremendous shape going into the bubble, he's not in that. But he's in much better shape than he was when he came into the league. He's still, but my point was this: he just looked across at, and he just felt like you smacked him in the face. That guy is stopping me. He's supposed to guard me. Now they had iHeart as well, but Joker. And again, Joker, he's like laid back. He likes to trade horses and over all that stuff. His brothers are also giants. His, and even though his brothers are a little bit, they and the Joker, the Jokic brothers and the Morris brothers, they had, but just, they're giants, but they're not gentle. Like, I'm bigger than you, and I don't like hearing all that mouth. Okay. That's how the Morris brothers and the Jokic brothers kind of get down. Like men of few words, but just 0 to 100. Like, I'm not going to say much, but just looking at me, just know I'm carrying power where I'm at. What does this have to do with basketball? That's how Joker carried himself, and he just looked across and manhandled, in my view, Oklahoma City for certain stretches of the series. Now, they were tried and true. They stood tall. They came back, and they ended up winning the series. But what's the point? My point is now Denver has more weapons at their disposal. So if we do run it back, Denver versus Oklahoma City, just how OKC got much better with iHeart and Caruso, now Denver has replenished in that rematch scenario, right? To be able to take it to another level. They stay in the championship conversation. Al Horford to Golden State, why not? Golden State is lurking for Giannis. If I'm Milwaukee, I bring in Jrue Holiday. I go get him. I make it happen. Because they're not a championship team as constructed. And they know that they was wrong to let him go in the first place. So now see what you can do. See what you have to do. Second apron, I don't care. Milwaukee is not winning. If Giannis is loyal to the soil, and I credit him for doing that, fine. Be loyal to the soil. By the way, we got some slice of life to talk about. My man Pat Connaughton, the pride of Danvers, Massachusetts, and St. John's Prep. Saw a really good clip when we get to slice of life. Worth $500 million, or his real estate holdings are worth $500 million. I don't know if Pat Connaughton has made more than $10 million in a season. We'll get those stats for you on the screen. But this man is taking pennies and turning them into hundreds of millions of dollars in profits. So we'll talk about that. Just in terms of guys not being a part of that 70% of NBA players who end up broke, but taking that, just being very savvy in their investments. And by the way, a word to the wise, because the college kids are making their money, staying in school for 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 years. I can't blame them because they're making millions of dollars while doing it. A word to the wise when we get to slice of life, looking at what Pat Connaughton is doing in terms of how he's investing his money. Okay, so let's talk about Horford to Golden State. The Boston situation, you took away the glue. You took away the continuity. Right now it's on thin ice as far as I'm concerned. You're not better. You're not better. And now you have fences to mend. So I wouldn't be surprised if Al said, you know what I mean? Now, Golden State is not championship. It's a good city to live in. Obviously, in Silicon Valley, and artificial intelligence is taking over the world quietly, and it's going to, it's getting louder and louder. But if I'm Al, and in my mind, the Celtics are no longer favorites. Particularly, so if I'm Al and there's all this uncertainty, let me go to Silicon Valley, first-rate organization, be a glue guy, help them, and we'll see. Because if Golden State is the same as, and by the way, Golden State, that kind of hurt my heart. How they had a manhand, how they mad dogged Houston this year when Houston was the better team, but Golden State, as constituted, reminds me of the Clippers. They have a winning culture. They're not going to win a championship, but they can give a championship team some trouble. They can give, Denver, I think will just manhandle them, frankly, when the rubber meets the road. I think I think the Houston is just one. Because what Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, okay, Kevon Looney, Chris, good point. They lose Looney, but you have Tracy Jackson. They're the center from Indiana, who really should have been their starting. Like I don't know what the heck they were doing. I was ready for him to take more of a starting role, and to be their center for the future this year. Okay, so Kevon Looney is he's a center for hire. The Lakers could use him. The Lakers are in the conversations to bring in Ayton, right? You have all these pieces out there that can help teams that are trying to take that next step. But whether you lose Looney or bring in Horford, the math ain't mathing in Golden State. You're not a championship team unless you make a power move. Jackson Davis, thank you. Okay, and if Giannis decides to stay, I don't see any power moves for them to be making. Right? Because they need, like, you have JB and Steph in your backcourt. Like, Drew Holiday's not gonna help you. You already have plenty of backcourt. They need, they really need Giannis. It's Giannis or bust for Golden State. Okay, that's how. What other, like, who? The time, So, Al, leave, because it's a whole new thing now in Boston. It's Brad Stevens, or I can't necessarily. I am putting some of this on Brad, even though it's coming from the ownership group. But Brad gets some of the smoke from me. In that you should have signed a shorter deal with Drew when you brought him in, to give yourself the flexibility with this whole second. You can't all of a sudden now complain with the second apron when other teams are not blowing up championship teams because of the second apron. Like, for all intents and purposes, I'm not hearing that Cleveland's trying to get rid of. I'm hearing Cleveland's going to run it back. They have Garland. They have Spider. They have Mobley. They have Jared Allen. They have Hunter coming off the bench, right? So Cleveland is. I don't see Cleveland just getting rid of what works because they're terrified of the second apron. But Boston wants to lead the charge in rebuilding a championship team. It's just ridiculous. Please, anybody, everybody, if you have counterpoints, again, people have said, Chris has made a good point. I'm 10 toes down that culture, continuity matters. I'm 10 toes down on, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And the panic button that didn't need to be pushed. By the way, right? So when Kevin Garnett hurt his Achilles, and I know the whole salary, it was different, so you didn't have the second apron and all the rest of that stuff. When Garnett hurt his Achilles late in the 2009 season, was Danny Ainge like, oh, we gotta, because he hurt himself, so our championship, or did he just bring the whole team back and they went to another NBA Finals? Did he add to that team, bringing in Rasheed Wallace, bringing in Shaq, and they went to another Finals, and if they were one quarter away from winning another championship? Because did I miss the memo on that? When KG hurt himself, well, Pierce and Ray Allen, they're not young anymore, so I got to trade now Ray Allen and get me the young superstar because our window is closed. No, they ran it back and almost won another championship. and could have kept, Now, granted, they ran it back and almost won another championship in 10, and then in 11, Cleveland had arrived. Excuse me, Miami had arrived. So they had their 3 years, and then they battled Miami. They pushed Miami to 7. LeBron had to have his LeBron game in Game 6 in Boston, or else he was about to be embarrassed, because again, Celtics were on the road because we never got a chance to see the LeBron-Kobe finals that we were promised. 2009, there's no excuse. The Magic beat Cleveland. That's just preposterous. And then 10, it was a 2-2 series in 10, and then LeBron had the dud in Game 5 in Cleveland, and it was over. So that series could have, would have, should have, went 7, didn't. But we never got the LeBron-Kobe series we were promised. And really, 2009 is the crying shame. It should have happened in 2009. 10, debatable. But 11, LeBron was about to get sent home again in 11. He got sent home in 9 and 10. He was about to get sent home again in 11, if we recall. And then he had the LeBron domination game in Game 6 in Boston to get it back to Miami, and they won that series in 7 but they were on the ropes, right? So all the way back to Denver, and why this is a power move, and why this makes the Celtics look stupid, and I'll say it again and again and again and again. Stupid. Because then Joker is now prime Joker, prime Murray, some coaching things that, some organizational things, but they're right there. They're going to be at the top of the West, competing for that top seed during the regular season. Cam Johnson, fresh start, happy to be there, enthusiastic, and just more, Michael Porter, and he's a me guy. Fine. He's a me guy. He's been a me guy. Go to Brooklyn, get your points. And we'll see. We'll see, if, because again, I always say good, players like that who are the third or fourth fiddle on really good teams, Jordan Farmar. Yeah. LeBron, yeah. And thank you, Chris. Let's get that for the people on the screen. Chris is out here just dimes. But this is what I need from Anthony Edwards. Google already knew. I just said LeBron dunk, and Google was like, yep. I said LeBron dunk, and go Jason Terry. I said LeBron dunk, go Jason Terry. Got to do a little bit better on my production side of it.
They're 20.
Okay, I'm sharing.
Of 30.
For some reason, I can't go full screen. It's not allowing it. All right, you get the point, people. Enough's enough. Run it back. Let's go.
They're 20 of 30 here tonight. Jason Terry, good defense. Wade from behind takes it away. Chalmers, Cole, James! Whoa! And a technical foul called on Miami for the taunt.
That tech was far too quick.
Now it looked like he jumped out of the mezzanine to dunk this ball.
Jason Terry playing good defense.
As they lay it up there.
What does he get? Oh, goodness.
Woo.
That technical is far too quick.
That's sending it down with some power.
We need to run that back. Too quick on the technical, folks.
They're 20 of 30 here tonight.
Let's play basketball.
Jason Terry, good defense.
And thank you,
Wade
Chris,
from
for bringing
behind
this
takes
up.
it away.
Oh, Jason Terry.
Oh, James! Whoa! And a technical foul called on Miami.
No, we don't need the tech. That's called basketball. That's the game we call basketball.
Now
That's
it
heaven
looked
is a
like
playground
he
out
jumped
there.
out
Where's
of the
Rick Tellinger
mezzanine
at?
to dunk this ball.
Oh, it's
Just
just, you never
watch
know. You're only as
as
good
they
as your
lay it
last
up there.
envelope. Jason Terry, you're
Watch
in the.
this.
Oh, you meant well. Oh. That's that. I had enough of you.
Power.
We have to run that back again because watch how LeBron, he waits and steps into it.
They're 20 of 30 here tonight. Jason Terry, good defense. Wade from behind takes it away. Chalmers, Cole, James! Whoa! And a technical foul called on Miami with a taunt.
Now it looked like he jumped out of the mezzanine to dunk this ball. Just
LeBron
watch
coming back.
as they lay it up there.
Throw it.
Watch this. Woo.
Hold on. We speaking of the eye of the tiger, folks.
Some power.
I told you Joker has it. We're going to hit it one more time.
30
I know, but we got to see the eye of the
Terry,
tiger.
good defense.
This is what I'm looking
Wade
for
from
Anthony
takes it
Edwards.
away.
This is when you're on another level. Not just that I looked at you.
Whoa! And a technical foul call.
He didn't deserve a technical.
Miami with a taunt.
That LeBron right there. That LeBron right there. I had enough of you. Enough is enough. Okay? Hubie Brown, basketball royalty. Royalty. That eye of the tiger, LeBron. Meaning, my mentors, I've gone to a whole nother place. Right? Back up against the wall. Okay? I might go down, but I'm going down swinging. Right? And this mindset where you relieve yourself of the pressure, I have nothing to, instead of I can't lose, this is the burden when you are great. Nobody roots for Goliath, right? And the greatness becomes a pressure on you versus this LeBron, game 6 LeBron, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I might lose, but I'm giving you the business. If I lose, I lose. If I lose, I lose. But you're getting the business. Period. Period. Eye of the tiger, LeBron. This is what I need from Anthony Edwards. I might lose, I might win. But you are getting the business. That's undeniable. I'm going to lose with 50. I'm giving you 45 points, 12 rebounds, 13 assists, 3 steals, 4 blocks. If we lose, we lose. But you're getting the business. That's not in dispute. You are getting the business. Period. Thank you for the reference, Chris. Eye of the tiger, LeBron, game 6. Okay? Luka has shown me this. Joker showed this. Okay? We can give shout out to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because he had some consistency, some 30-point games. Okay? Again, Shai down 10 in. Shai had some games where he put on. Got to do a little bit better with his shooting percentage. Some of the games he scored 30 some odd points, but on 28 shots. But still, he went down swinging. I'm going down swinging tonight. I'm not. No. I'm not. It's on me. And again, Shai Gill impacting the game offensively and defensively. And hey, somebody gonna catch some fire. Somebody catching it. Okay. Okay. Let's keep moving and grooving. That playoff LeBron. And let's take a look. Let's take a look at the standings. We talked about Denver. I'm continually, I can't get away from it. There's going to be continual shade on Boston. I mean, again, it is what it is. Maybe I should just back up because what's done is done, right? We learned that from The Godfather. What's done is done. What's done is done. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. Chris made a good point. You got, just give the team. You know what I mean? All right. I'm gonna give the team a chance. Give them a chance. Again, we'll see what team it is because Jaylen Brown's name keeps coming up. JB's name keeps coming up, and he does a lot in the city. I want to keep JB in the city. But the Houston move makes more sense to me. Let's talk about JB to Houston for Sengun. Again, you're talking about Houston loading up on centers. They give up Sengun. They bring in JB to go along with KD, to add to Amen Thompson, to add to Jabari Smith, to add to Reed Shepard, to add to Fred VanVleet. It's just bananas. So you talk, if JB goes to Houston for Sengun, it's crazy now. We're talking, this is crazy talk. Because Houston, not only do they have the future secured with Reed Shepard, Thompson, and Jabari Smith, but you got VanVleet, you got KD, and you got JB under MA's leadership. And they got sent, because MA is I thought Houston did too much through Sengun, particularly against Golden State, going to him down the stretch to get a bucket. That's not, unless it's Tim Duncan, you don't just give the ball to a post player and expect him to get a bucket. Right? You got to run your offense. You know what I mean? Sengun, he's good, but he's not Kevin McHale good. So there were crucial possessions, critical possessions, and I know Jalen Green went off the reservation. As a young guy, he went off the reservation. But we should have been seeing VanVleet in a pick and roll situation for Houston to initiate their offense, rather than just giving it to Sengun and just being like, go get a bucket when he's already got to go through Draymond. The defense can load up, and he's really not that guy. Joker is that guy, right? He's that guy in general, and he's that guy in the post. But I really can't think of another player in the league that you can just give him the ball to post up, and go get it. So Houston's got to do a better job to, if they come back and it's obviously going to go through KD. And by the way, now we're talking about running KD and Sengun in a screen roll, or VanVleet and KD in a screen roll, the different type of ways you can use KD. And they got some other young Lions. So Houston is exceedingly dangerous. Clarkson to the Knicks, okay. Fine. Should I be more enthusiastic? What that says to me, what Clarkson to the Knicks says to me, is that they're leaning more Mike Brown than they are Taylor Jacobs. Clarkson, which is a double-edged sword, because Mike Brown wants to play up-tempo. Taylor Jenkins is more committed to the half court in a slower pace, which is how the Knicks play. Either way, their bench just got that much better, and you have somebody that can get you buckets. For my money, the bench had players that could score. Like Landry Shamet can score. He's not, but he can score. Obviously, McBride can shoot it. I've said that. So, right? Like the question I'll ask, as much as I'm happy, but I didn't think the generation of, like Mikal, the Knicks have plenty of scoring. The question is, and this is a fair point with Tibbs, You needed to give him time to work it out. Nobody was complaining against Boston. You weren't complaining against Boston when it worked to a T. But certainly against Indiana, not in game one, because we had them on the run. It should have been more run through Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges can initiate offense. Run the screen, roll with Bridges, and get Brunson off the ball. By the way, Brunson's a really a good spot-up shooter as well. Just like Bridges can spot up, Brunson can spot up. So within Tibbs' system, where I do think there's more optionality than people give it credit for, people just act like it's a volume shooting offense. He just gives the ball to JB to pound like it's an AI offense, which it's not. And JB is a willing passer when the doubles come, but he also holds on to the ball and gets to his spots and is deadly in the mid-range. But, you know, we needed more Bridges on the ball initiating the offense. Too much Josh Hart drip, Josh Hart, and that's where it just got insane. That Josh Hart had the ball in like late clock situations and everybody's just standing there looking at him. Josh Hart should have been on the short corner ready to rebound or setting a screen for somebody. He's not a primary ball handler in any offense in any universe. And things just got so convoluted. And I think there was just a war going on behind the scenes and we lost directionality. Okay, so Clarkson, okay, fine, but Clarkson, he's instant offense off the bench, good. So we have, you're right, you can, like when you're resting guys, but what else is he? He's not a great defender. He's a fill it up guy. It would have worked with Tibbs if you would have let Tibbs. Because he would have become a little bit better of a defender. But people act like Tibbs doesn't, Tibbs puts the ball in his scorer's hands and puts them in position to be successful. So that would, but what am I getting at here? What am I trying to say? Mike Brown's, Taylor Jenks, both of them are going to have to give a little bit to do what this team does best. Okay? I haven't even mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns is injury prone. The last OG is injury prone. So they don't need to be running up and down extra possessions playing at this breakneck pace like Mike Brown was doing in Sacramento. So we're going to have Mike Brown come in because he's a very good coach and we're going to run his system. So then you can just guarantee yourself that Cat and OG are not going to be healthy in the playoffs. Unless they're only going to play 65 games if you want to run and gun. Like, that's not the personnel the Knicks have. The Knicks personnel is more Taylor Jenkins. OG is a physical, half-court, run-on-your-defense player. He's a big, burly guy. He's not running up and down. You don't want to play high-possession basketball. And Cat has a different frame, but he still has the injury issues. Cat is more of a gazelle, but Cat is not, Cat's not a guy that just wants to run up, what am I saying? Karl-Anthony Towns is not Domantas Sabonis. Or a Joker that just is built to run a secondary break offense. Is Karl-Anthony Towns going to be dribbling the ball up the court like Sabonis to start, to initiate the offense? So again, hire Mike Brown, hire Taylor Jenkins. They're both good coaches, but if it's Mike Brown, he's going to have to adjust and he can't run the same up-tempo stuff that he wants to do. And if it's Taylor Jenkins, it's more, and Taylor Jenkins is underappreciated, or I'm saying Taylor Jenkins does a good job, or can scheme up some stuff for Brunson in the half court to get them going. Because Memphis played a half court game and ran on their defense, but Ja was still cooking. Bane cooked there. So, and Taylor Jenkins, he likes playing bigger, plays two bigs. So I don't think he'll have any issue playing Mitch Rob and Cat together. But at the end of the day, all right, hurrah for Clarkson, more offense. Which I'll take, even though I didn't think we need more of. Who's the rim protector, folks, for the Knicks? Huh? Who's the Knicks DeAndre Jordan? Where's the Knicks Tyson Chandler? Right? Who is the glass eater? Gafford is a good point that Chris brought up. Big, physical, rebound, defend. That's what they do to take some of the pressure off of Cat. Because Mitch Rob's not going to be healthy. He ain't playing the whole season. So as much as, right, I think the Knicks would have been better off getting Capella. Yeah, Mitch Rob. But he's not going to be there the whole time. And he's essential, the Knicks need to do what Phoenix did. Phoenix brought in the young bull with the help of Rich Paul as their center for the future, and then they brought in Mark Williams as their starting center. The Knicks need front court depth. Mitch Robinson is essentially the Knicks starting center who comes off the bench, because Cat's not really a center. Do I have a problem with starting Cat at center? No, because Josh Hart, and this is frustrating me, all this ridiculousness. Tom Thibodeau got the best out of Josh Hart. And that lineup is the Knicks' best lineup, with Hart at the 4, with Bridges and Brunson. Because in case people forgot, La Cosa Nova is the nucleus of the Knicks. La Cosa Nova is the nucleus. The Villanova guys are the glue. And so when Josh Hart had to go to the bench and then he comes in the game and he's out of rhythm, I thought Josh Hart should have. I didn't think Josh Hart should have went from playing 38 minutes to playing 25. I thought Josh Hart should have went from playing 38 minutes to 33 minutes. Good point on Ayton, Chris. I think Ayton is headed for the Lakers or the Warriors. I don't think Ayton wants to come to the East Coast. He's from the Caribbean. He's a warm weather guy. I don't think he was thrilled about being in the Pacific Northwest. But the opportunity to go to the City of Angels, go to La La Land, or to go to Golden State. I'm hearing some rumblings about Golden State. I think he would prefer those destinations. I don't know if he's, chomping at the bit to play, center and Cat be the 4. Those are both guys that want, Ayton wants to score. This was the issue with him. He doesn't have a great, he averaged 14 and 10. So he's a serviceable, he scores more. He's more of a power scorer than, a reverse pivot up and under type of. He's more of a power guy than a skill guy. But he wants his points, and there's not too many points to go around for the Knicks. Knicks have plenty of offense, so no. Okay, let's take a look at the West. Top 2, firm. Denver now. completes the trifecta. OKC, Houston, Denver, Lakers, and credit to JJ for being the third seed. As much as I question his youth and inexperience, that's big time, being a third seed in the West. Okay, Minnesota, but who knows? When are we going to get MVP level Ant-Man? In Minnesota re-signing Randall, have a good coach in Finch, been in 2 consecutive Western Conference Finals. Do they have any urgency to take the next step? Or are they just happy to be there? When they have a complete roster, they re-sign Naz Reid. They have it all. Conley's your veteran point guard. Jaden Daniels is your 3-and-D guy, like a 7'5" wingspan. You got Randall, you got Gobert for defense. They have it all. It's just about unlocking Ant-Man, or Ant-Man, content to just, because I'm gonna use a name here, folks. As far as I'm concerned, with Anthony Edwards, and he's a little bit more consistent, but he's not more consistent than this player when it comes to money time. Tracy McGrady. Yeah. For all the accolades and the potential, right? Houston went to the Western Conference Finals without him. Did he make it to the second round ever? Okay. Now Ant has surpassed, he's broken through and advanced further. But there's what the second round was to Tracy McGrady, the conference finals is to Ant-Man. He gets there and then he doesn't turn up. So I cannot put him ahead of Oklahoma City, Houston, or Denver. And we'll see what the Lakers do. If the Lakers continue to retool, bring in possibly Ayton, then they would stay a cut above, which is, to me, disappointing. The Timberwolves are the younger team. They're the more explosive team. But Lakers bring in Ayton. They stay above. The Clippers really shouldn't have been above them this year. I can put I can put Minnesota ahead of the Clippers for next year. Begrudgingly. Okay. Golden State staying in place here. Memphis is taking a step back, semi-blowing it up. And there's rumblings about Jaren Jackson Jr. possibly being out. If I'm him, I'm kind of looking around like, what the heck is going on? Obviously, you still have Ja. But I think Memphis takes a step back, losing Bane. Sacramento Kings don't know who they are. Dallas Mavericks can stay in the play-in because Jason Kidd is there. But still, Kyrie's going to be out for a time. Anthony Davis is not, so Dallas Mavericks are kind of starting the season as Cooper against the world. Because Anthony Davis isn't going to be there consistently. He's just not. And Kyrie's out. So Cooper and Clay is long in the tooth. But Jason Kidd is there, so I'll say they can keep their spot in the play-in. Phoenix doesn't know who they are, which direction they're going. 18 shooting guards on paper. Okay, San Antonio is coming up. So San Antonio will come up into the top 6, in my view. And Minnesota, the Clippers, or the Lakers have to bounce. I'm going to say Minnesota. I say Minnesota gets bounced down into the play-in. Why? Because I can't. I don't trust. I'm seeing too cool for school Anthony Edwards. Shot a bunch of threes, made a bunch of threes. Good. Okay? Will Anthony Edwards ever get into the MVP conversation? That's an honest question. Will he ever get into the MVP conversation? Because we know to be in the MVP conversation, you have to be top 2 or top 3. In your conference, at least. He's in the West, so it's going to be real tough to get into that 2 or top 3. So he's not in the All-NBA. He's not in the MVP conversation. Is he in the All-NBA first team? Maybe, maybe not. Okay? But I have him in the play-in because Oklahoma City is going to be there. The Rockets are going to be there. Denver is going to be there. San Antonio is going to be there. San Antonio will be there next year, folks. Healthy Wemby, with De'Aaron, with the Rookie of the Year, with a young bull in Dylan Harper, with Chris Paul and his leadership and talent coming off their bench. They're a top 6 team. Okay, so I'm going to put the Spurs at 4. So now you have the Lakers, Clippers at 5 and 6. Minnesota comes down into the 7 spot. Golden State can bump down into the 8 spot. Dallas, for lack of a better team, honestly, I don't trust the Suns for anything. Nothing. Zip, zero, zilch. Kings firing good coaches, bringing in players from teams that have been, drenched in mediocrity, i.e. Zach LaVine and the Bulls. So the Kings, no. Don't know who they are or where they're going. Portland, I can put maybe above these 2 teams, only because they have continuity with Chauncey. Phoenix has their 3rd or 4th coach in however many years. So my playing teams, Golden State, Minnesota, Dallas, and Portland. And so for the bottom feeders, that's going to be Sacramento, that's going to be Phoenix, that's going to be New Orleans, that's going to be Utah. New Orleans not trying to win, not being gifted top picks, which I don't have a problem with. Bringing this kid McQueen. I think it's just Queen. Yeah, Derek Queen, starve tomorrow. Giannis is still hanging around for the time being, but Pelicans are rebuilding, fine. They were rebuilding when they had talent. Jazz continue to have talent, but I guess now they're in the AJ DeBanza sweepstakes. All right, so that's how I see the West. The superior conference, very top heavy, top 6. It's just knockdown, drag out. Playing teams, your Minnesotas, your Golden States, they have a lot of experience. In Minnesota's case, a lot of talent to go along with that experience. It's just for Golden State. Okay, how many trips around the sun? How many years of a core, before, they're in their twilight. Golden State's in their twilight now. Dallas has a new beginning, but it's going to take time. And Portland has as much young talent as Houston with no player development. No, that's strong. Not no. With much less player development. So they make the play-in and, probably headed back to the lottery. because you're going to favor Golden State and Minnesota to get in. But Portland is at the point for me where, I know it's tough, it's difficult. You have to grow your own. Portland got to grow your own, right? People aren't chomping at the bit to play in Portland. Do you pull a Kawhi? Do you package some of your young players, your Shaden Sharps, your Scoot Hendersons, Donovan Clingan? Do you package the young players, one or two of them, whatever the case may be, to go and try to just steal a star? A Kawhi for a year just to see what you can put together. I mean, Cronin knows his business. He got a rant, a king's ransom for Dame. But they just have a lot of, they just got some veterans there in Grant, Danny Vija, and then you just got like the future. And I credit them this year. Talk about it. They were fifth in defense the second half of the year. With the culture that they established and buying in, reminds me a lot of Orlando, where guys bought in and did it the right way and were team first. But it's just not amounting to wins in a very competitive West. Not amounting to wins. Let's go East. All right. Cleveland stays. Detroit moves up. Orlando moves up. Atlanta is interesting. Atlanta is interesting. I'm a Quinn Snyder guy. Fan of Quinn in Utah and presently. So you got Trey, you got Jalen Johnson, young up-and-comer. All right. Onyeka, your center for the future. Number 2 overall pick right here. Number 1 overall pick. Number 2, I get him and Sarr confused. I believe he was 1 and Sarr was 2. But, it's time for him to step up. Saw Bogdan retired. He still got some years left as far as I'm concerned. Terrence Mann, out of the Commonwealth, good serviceable player. So can Atlanta make the step into the top 6 and usurp a Milwaukee, usurp a Boston, usurp right? Milwaukee or Boston would be the 2 teams. A New York. Do I think they can? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's going to take another year. You got to develop the rook. He's only a second-year guy. Jalen Johnson, has just tasted a little bit of success, but I can't bank on it. So at the top of the East, Cleveland, okay, they stay. Boston, Tatum's injury, some uncertainty. The Knicks, uncertainty with their coach. Indiana, Halliburton being out. Milwaukee, same old, same old. But do I trust Detroit to leapfrog these guys? I don't. They need help. Do I trust Orlando to leapfrog these guys? I do. So I have a team. I have Orlando moving up into the top 3. Put Orlando at 2 for now. And Boston and New York take steps back. But it's just like the whole conference took a step back. It's the walking wounded. Physically, culturally, just the whole 9 yards. Okay, Toronto is in tank mode, getting rid of Masai Ujiri. Brooklyn is learning to win. They're not going, in Philadelphia is just Washington and Charlotte. You already know. Philly, good draft pick in Edgecombe, Maxey, Dude, McClain, excuse me. Up and coming player, good serviceable player. Nick Nurse knows his business. Can Philly break into the top 6? Cleveland, yes. Detroit, yes. Orlando, yes. That's 3. Indiana, yes, will stay there. 4. Boston, I'm going to say they're going to stay in the top 6. 5. And then the Knicks, Milwaukee. You have the Knicks, you have Milwaukee. I don't know. We got some toss-ups in here. We got a couple toss-ups. Even though I am angry with my New York Knicks. They're still very talented. They'll have a capable coach. It's just about who falls far enough, to put themselves in a position where you're going to have to play Cleveland or Orlando in the first round. Who's gonna tumble that far? Will it be the Celtics? Will it be the Knicks? Will it be Milwaukee? See, now I would have Milwaukee passing the Celtics and Knicks if they just run it back because Giannis is loyal to the soil. I think Milwaukee's going to be better than the Knicks and the Celtics next year as constituted because, they have stability. Whereas the Knicks and the Celtics are going to be trying to figure it out anew. And again, for me, if I'm Milwaukee, I'm making calls about Jrue Holiday. I'm trying to move some money around. I'm trying to mend that fence. He's not staying in Portland. He didn't like being traded to Portland in the first place. A team like Miami would be a destination for Jrue. Not that he's going to help Miami win a championship without additional moves. But why not return to Milwaukee? If they're going to apologize and you have a real chance to win if you put Giannis, Dame, and Jrue on the same team. Now, would they be able to do that? Because you got Kuzma and second apron stuff. I see teams with 4 guys that are getting paid. And they're making it work. So you give up Lopez. Maybe that's what this Lopez is about. Get rid of Lopez to free up some space. Because, Milwaukee does need to bring in another player. They need a 4th member of the, to be fantastic. Or you can just run it back and wish for the best. The East is hurting. But by the end of the year, Halliburton will be back and Indiana is going to be at full strength. Okay, and they dismantled you. Okay, the Knicks, who knows? The Celtics, who knows? But benefit of the doubt is both those teams are going to be in the conversation. So the power moves that I see in the East are Jrue to Milwaukee, since he's a hired gun, and Devin Booker to Detroit, since Phoenix is going nowhere. You know? Can't trade Beal. Who wants Jalen Green? Can't have them all together. If I'm Devin Booker, I've had about enough. Okay, and all right, folks, let's slide over. Certainly willing to, if anybody has anything, I'm on the firmest ground when it comes to the NBA, even though we will talk other sports. I like the D'Lo move to Dallas, right? Stopgap measure, you know. Let's get that for you on the screen. How long can somebody look at standings and it be, you know, I got to do a little bit better job on the production side. Standings are not appealing to anybody. They're appealing to me. They are appealing to me. But I don't know how engaging they are. No, that's old. Mistook Luka for Cooper. Can't do that. The new look.
Is rate these NBA core.
No, I just need the picture. I don't need a. See, I should have known better. Tic tac. That's what I call it sometimes. It's not just the imagery. You know, you got somebody giving their takes, which is fine. I just want a picture of the Dallas Mavericks with Cooper Flag on it. Did I just... All right, now we got a delay here. Goodness gracious. All right. Can't get the whole team. We'll set it for the big three. Keep it moving and grooving, folks. All right, some things that need to be said. Some tabs that need to be X'd out. Let's keep our upload. Folks, Dallas Mavericks are going to be a dangerous team. Are going to be. Let me. If the Dallas Mavericks can make it through the regular season and build up, if they can, they will. Not if. All right. Jason Kidd is going to build up the continuity, build up the culture, build up the connectiveness. All right. This team, again, the madness of trading Luka, but they got Cooper, all right, via gift, right? PJ Washington, Lively, Gafford. They bring in D'Lo. Okay. So you're giving an all-star chef, an elite chef, that's Jason Kidd. You're giving him those prime ingredients, right? He gonna put together a meal. He gonna put together some plates, some fixings. Okay? He's done it before. He's gonna do it again. And so that puts the Mavericks in a situation whereas they're dangerous. They're going to be a danger, if they slip, and they're probably going to be in the play-in just because the West is the West. But now you're looking at a team like Oklahoma City or Houston having to play a Dallas in the first round that's healthy and that just has weapons and a leader that is going to efficiently deploy those weapons. Ooh, Dinwiddie, Mr. ISO. What? So Dallas, they're a sleeper. I'm sorry. And I'm a history person. I have trouble letting things go. So the Luka situation here, the Tibbs situation there, the Drew Holiday situation here in the Commonwealth, I got trouble letting things go. I have attachment issues. It is what it is. Okay, but you're telling me, it's going to be, I can't put them in the top 6 during the regular season because of the unknowns. Okay, Cooper is not going to come in. They're not going to be expecting Cooper to play 82 games, 35 minutes a game. You're going to bring him along slowly. Okay, maybe a little bit more pace than what San Antonio did with Wemby, but the theory is the same. This is not the year for Cooper, who's young as it is because he gray shirted. It's not the year for him. He's learning to fly. Y'all know I like that song, Tom Petty. And Kyrie is out, and so AD is gonna, so as much as it looks good on paper, these 3 guys are not really going to be playing, honestly, that much this season, together or at all. Because AD is not playing more than 65. You're going to have to maybe 70, pushing it. But you're going to rest AD for the playoffs. That's just what you're going to do. Cooper's going to need his rest nights because you're not trying to go all out with Cooper. He's learning. And, you can learn just as much by watching as you can by going out there getting beat up. Not that there's anything wrong with that. People act like, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, formerly Lou Alcindor didn't, So some of this nonsense that we got going around that you get better at playing basketball by not playing basketball. Okay, this is AI gone out of control, which is a whole nother ball of wax in terms of the world that we're living in. I'm glad I saw Terminator 2 when I was in grammar school, Rise of the Machines. Now, living in saw something, we might get it in Slice of Life talking about, in the next 20 years, there's going to be 300 million humanoid robots. Something like that. Am I talking alarmist? No. It's not to be alarmist. This is not the day after tomorrow, post-apocalyptic talk. It's just the world that we're living in. I don't mind mentioning it. And it's always been changed. I'm a history person, so I can attest to that. Talk about the greatest generation that lived through World War II. I mean, we can deal with a couple of robots. But so it's a brave new world. All right, back to basketball, specific to. I'm just saying this Dallas Mavericks team, they're building for. Yeah, it's the world. Just Chris made a point back to. It's amazing for those folks out there, and I'll just make another quick point. For those folks that are investment savvy. I wish I was one of those folks. I follow these, but just put a couple dollars, a couple pesos, shekels, whatever you call it, on this. It's fascinating. I'm saying I saw one of the things, that Mark Zuckerberg paid the guy in AI. I think his name is Wang, last name Wang, first name, I forget his first name is. But he's the guy. He's pushing. He's at the forefront. and I think he might have been with Facebook and he lost. Whatever the case, Zuckerberg was like, Zuckerberg said, "Here's $15 billion to come work for Facebook." The most recent reporting is that Zuckerberg lost some of the top AI. Like, I guess there's like 100 or so, like whatever the pool is, 100, maybe it's 500 that are creating the world of the future, like right now. And all the tech companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, that are fighting, behind the scenes, tooth and nail. You got some countries as well that are waging this war to have these guys on their team. Zuckerberg, fine, he just said, enough's enough. And this is actually interesting when we talk about wages and wages not improving and inflation. I'm not going to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but Zuckerberg said, all right, so whatever the scale is for you guys, that you're going to make $1 million in 10, I'm just going to 10x it. I'm pushing all my chips in the middle to get these guys on my team because they are creating the future. And I have to have the cutting edge, which when you look at it, Zuckerberg, he's worth well over $200 billion. Like Elon is worth $400 billion. As much as I might not agree with one person or another on their stances on whatever issue, how does Elon not even want to buy Twitter? Like he didn't even, and they just, or the people didn't think that he would pay the price. And then Elon just paid stupid money. And then people at Twitter were like, okay, I guess we have to give the company up, is my understanding of how that went down. They just asked for like a ridiculous number. And then Elon gave them that number, the number that they didn't think anybody was going to match. And then, of course, he comes in and there was obviously a transition. People left and all the, I mean, it's up and still, the de facto site that it was. But my point, I thought that hurt him a little bit. These are one of the things that I do in the class, just when we're talking about a subject you want to provide, like who was the world's richest man? Like there's these graphs that show it in real time in 1970 and all the way. It's pretty cool to watch. It goes up. But Elon is the richest man by like $100 billion. He's worth $400 billion. I was like, yikes. But the point all the way back to, if you're worth $400 billion, is it really that much? Did you really hurt anything or change anything by paying like the indispensable man in AI $15 billion if you're worth over 200? Like that's not. Ooh, Chris. I'm over here talking AI. Chris is over here. Shams in the chat. We got to get that up here. I'm talking AI. We got breaking news. SandCity in the building. No end in sight. So that's we'll come back to the world of sports. Fascinating stuff. Pirates of Silicon Valley still. But this Dallas team is going to be like a sleeping giant during the regular season. I'm not coming off that take. But come playoff time, if they're, they will be healthy. They will be healthy. And they're going to be dangerous. So this has been reported by Chris in the chat. Shams in real time. Do we have Ayton? Let me get Shams in real time. I'm on Shams' page. Let me see, scroll down. He might not have put it out there just yet. Let's go to Twitter proper. Goodness. Oh my goodness. I got to be careful. What is the term that they say? So, Chris, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it just yet on the feed. We'll stop sharing. Not that it's not so. But we got Ayton to the Lakers, 3 years, 100 millions. Don't doubt it for one bit, right? And so the Lakers, rich keep getting richer. Luka has his lob threat, your scoring threat. Ayton wants to get buckets. There's plenty of buckets to be gotten. He had a really, I thought his time in Portland, him doing the right thing and buying, because there was, he didn't necessarily, he was in his feelings in Phoenix a little bit too much. As far as I'm concerned, Monty Williams is a good coach, knows his business. Chris Paul can kind of run people. So we got Ayton to the Lakers. It hasn't come. We're gonna go with that. I'm here, and I haven't seen a shams bomb has not come up for me. And again, if it has to be walked back, it'll be walked back. But does Ayton to the Lakers make them the favorites in the West? No. But it keeps them in that upper echelon, right? You got some personalities, people. If you're the Lakers, okay, you got some heavy duty personalities. Luka is his own universe. LeBron is his own universe. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, thrice, shame on me. All right, Ayton has had, this is going all the way back to Arizona, where there was issues about whether he got paid, things that we laugh about now. Okay, and he got this much money and Adidas, and okay, we laugh about it now. I saw something that University of Maryland is going to start paying players tomorrow. All right, all of this, people need, people lost eligibility, people's names were besmirched. Foolishness. Nonsense. Okay, but again, DeAndre Ayton, was he a team guy? Was he a culture builder? Kind of like a guy named Drew Holiday? NBA champion, Olympic gold medalist. I'm not off of that. I'm going to continue to mention that. As well as being an all-star level talent. We're talking about Drew now. Ayton, okay, who's fringe all-star at best, but he's always walked to the beat of his own drum. And so again, back to the Lakers, on paper, it's great. And I'm glad that he had that, his time with Portland, similar to how Crispy P, Porzingis, that year with Washington did a lot for him. Maturity-wise, role acceptance-wise, defense and rebounding-wise. Welcome to July. This is on the East Coast as the clock strikes midnight. Y'all folks on the West Coast, y'all got 3 hours to go. On the East Coast, we into Juleezy now. We're into July. Beautiful thing. But that's what I'm saying, right? Like, you have to have your hands on those strings. And here's another point, again, where JJ has to pump the brakes. I'm getting a little bit too much Duke energy from JJ in the press conference. Coming in with an attitude, swearing, telling people off. Okay? JJ, stay in your lane. Okay? First of all, it takes, they are who we thought they were. Okay? It took Denny Green was along for you need some years of service before you even have the gravitas to come into a press conference with some type of attitude. Okay? Okay? You play to win the game. Herm Edwards. You gotta be around for some years before you can bring attitude to the press conference, JJ. I said what I said. All due respect, okay? You had the Lakers. You went through the storms. Like, schematically, he's got some game. He's got some game in terms of X's and O's and all of that stuff. Now, Rob Pelinka, right? He's got Scott Brooks, Nate McMillan, right? And if I was, you need to bring some more people in. They got the trainer extraordinaire there, Handler, right? And so Pelinka knows his business, and he has people around JJ. But one thing JJ needs to quit fast and get rid of, okay, is bringing attitude to the press conference and subliminals. You don't do none of that. Not none, zero. That's not the type of motivation that Luka Doncic responds to. Okay? At all. And we know doggone well LeBron don't respond to that type of motivation. And put DeAndre Ayton in that category as well. A different tier. Okay, but even though he might be on his best behavior for now, right? Charlie Villanueva was on his best behavior to get contracts. He was on his best behavior to get his rookie contract. Then he slid back into how then he was on his best behavior. Remember when Detroit gave all that money to Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva? Okay, got the contract and was never heard from again. Players are going to be on their best behavior to get contracts. But by and large, they then go back and regress to the mean in terms of who they always have been. So JJ's got a lot on his plate. And I understand all this being authentic, and I got it. Okay, that's why Jason Kidd burned through his first 2 jobs that he got coaching. Burned through the Brooklyn job or whatever. It was with the Knicks or Brooklyn. Then he burned through the Milwaukee job because he had to be true to his authentic coach. I didn't realize Ayton was that young, Chris. Only did the 1 year at Arizona. Only 26. So him and Luke are same age. I think you got something there. But JJ's got to learn that less is more. And if anything, you point the finger at yourself. Right? I need to get the team in we need to do this better. I have to put him in position. That's the language of the modern coach, A. And all coaches, that are not elite. You need some stripes. You need to be a Carlisle. You need to be a Spoelstra. You need to, my man Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau can speak to people in the vernacular. He can call people by their given name because he's Tom Thibodeau. So I'm calling you by your given name, and you better get your act together. I said, okay, because he's Tips. He called people by their given name and gets them to all-star, clutch player of the year, max contract status when you come up under his wing. But he's been doing it for 3 decades. Okay, JJ been doing it for a month and 3 years, a year and 3 months, excuse me. Stop all that. Less is more, JJ. You're not at Duke. You're not in Durham. You're not with the Brotherhood. You're the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay? Now, your connection to LeBron had a lot to do with that. But the Lakers have moved into the next iteration. They have LeBron, but they moved into the post-LeBron era with Luka. Okay, so you frankly, JJ is got some catching up to do. He's got to do his law degree in 3 years versus 4. He's got to do some cramming. He got to take some summer classes with what he has on his plate. Because honestly, this is a job for the Lakers. Job is a job for a Mike Brown, a Taylor Jent, That's who, all these coaches that are auditioning in New York, right? You got these two supreme egos as well as bring supreme talents on one team. And yet you have a young skipper at the helm. So it's, you know what I mean? JJ, you got to lead. And he showed this year, frankly, okay, with the Lakers being the number 3 overall seed. But how did Jason Kidd lead in Dallas with that job? By winning games. That's how he led. Consistently winning games. Good question, Chris, about Bronny. Bronny being the 8th or 9th man off the bench is balderdash. That's what it is. Okay? All due respect. Right? But this is a team in the Western Conference. Not the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, which is a juggernaut. Juggernaut. And this is a team that has dudes. Connect, Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, right? Like the Lakers have they got Rui. I always pronounce that. They had my man Cole Swider, the pride of Portsmouth, Rhode Island, played at Nova, played at Syracuse, drafted, bounced around. Cole Swider is an NBA player. But the Lakers just have so much talent, so many 6'7", 6'8" guys that can shoot it and have game that they couldn't even keep Cole Swider, who was an NBA player. 6'8", 6'9", can shoot the doggone lights out, comes from the Villanova tradition, is going to land with an NBA team. So all due respect, as much as I like Bronny and he's a good kid, and you know what I mean, we're talking about him getting rotation minutes in the West on a team that has dudes. Like, what are we doing? Every game, every possession. And Bronny, what he needs to show me, what Bronny needs to show me, honestly, and I've talked to you about the intangibles. I've talked to you about respect on the name, but we're talking just straight basketball now. Okay? Basketball. I have people, it's amazing. I was doing some youth games today. I told you I was white knuckling it to get there. That's on me. But the energy in these games, it is just, I'm in my 40s now. The Cape Cod kid ain't young like he used to be. But when I tell you the nostalgia and energy in these middle school matchups, when everybody's going to Duke, when everybody's making it to the NBA, the joy in seeing the kids mature from the elementary level. Now they're in middle school. They can start to play and they understand the game and they can start to execute plays and they start getting a little confidence. They start getting a little back and forth rivalries and parents who, some parents don't even, the parents are just doing the best that they can. Every parent's not a sports parent to understand the journey. So they're just, and everybody kind of gets caught up in the energy and and it's just a great atmosphere. Now, sometimes it can go overboard. We got to talk to the kid. I get that. But the hope, there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of potential in the future. What does that have to do with Bronny? Just seeing LeBron go through that process with his family, be at the AAU games, be in the layup lines, dap up, it just means so much when those NBA guys, and Peach Jam is coming up and the height of the summer circuit is this week, right now. For those up-and-coming players, you need to be playing the first 2 weeks of July. This is the recruitment period right now. So get out there. for the Stars of tomorrow. If you're not, it's not the end of the world. I'm not, you don't feel lost, because I was not one of those kids that had the opportunity to be in the circuit. But I got to see the Drew League documentary that Chris recommended. I told you need to go check out At All Costs, which I'll get up on the screen in a second. You know what I mean? So don't, it's not the end of the world if the kids because everybody can't afford to travel all over the country. Everybody's not playing on a sneaker team. But I don't mind telling you folks, in terms of all the money and the that this is the time where your recruitment, your ranking is established. Not the game in December, in Podunk against your crosstown rival. This 2 weeks is when the rankings are established. So if you have the opportunity to be in the games and be in this evaluation window, put your best foot forward, young people. Take that bad body language and throw it away. Take the attitude. Coaches can see it, sense it, sniff it a mile away. Okay? You need to be playing some Tom Thibodeau basketball. Possession by possession by possession. Nobody cares who wins these games, folks. Nobody, in terms of the recruitment process. It's important to the coach. It's important to the program because that's how they get the next player. That's how they keep the bread flowing, right? Those pictures, they put them out there. People, they have, and it's a business. I'm not knocking anybody's hustle. Do your business. But in terms of your recruitment, the score doesn't matter. The possessions are what matters. The possessions matter. The score is irrelevant. And you see it time and time and time again at these tournaments. I travel to the tournaments. These people, these families travel out of state. You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for these very precious court time. You get on the court. They get on the court. One thing goes wrong. The body language. They poke their lips out. All this attitude, pointing fingers at this person, pointing fingers at that person. You just wasted. In no uncertain terms, wasted. All of that investment of time and money in travel vis-a-vis the recruitment process. When you do those things, it's gone. Now you can have a good experience, travel with your family. There's nothing you can, all that stuff. Now sometimes you like it. Sometimes it's a grind. I get it. But those moments with your family, fine, it's wonderful, and you did it. But in terms of your idea, the thinking that that's going to amount to a Division I scholarship, I'm telling you right now, I don't mind doing it. If you go out there with that nonsense that you haven't been coached out of for whatever reason, because you're the best player in your neighborhood and the coach told you whatever the heck they told you, if you bring that nonsense into the live period and expect anything in return, okay, you're fooling yourself. Get mad at me. Get mad at the Cape Cod kid if you want to be mad at somebody. I don't care. I'm telling you what it is. Hopefully I tell you before you done traveled and spent the money, and right, because this is what happens. People get angry, a year or two later, they get burnt out of basketball. They stop playing basketball. They stop talking to people, and this person promised me this, and I was supposed to do this, and you don't know how hard, and we took out money on a credit card, and we traveled, and all of this that you're doing. Okay? I get it. I would have done it if I could have. Now, again, I was a Rudy Rudiger, but just to be there and all the rest of that stuff, you know what I mean? You have to pay it off as you go, whatever. But 10 toes down, I'll say your recruitment is how you respond against competition and how you respond in adversity. If you're going to do all of that, go through all of that, once you get that court time, those 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, 7 games, whatever it is you get in that weekend, you better be the best 5-tool player: defend, rebound, dribble, pass, and shoot. 5 things you can do to impact winning. Shout out to Bob Hurley, the Miracle of St. Anthony's. Defend, rebound, dribble, pass, and shoot. These are 5 things that you can do to impact winning. This is player efficiency. That's what you need to be focused on when you're out there on that court. Every single possession. That's how you catch coaches' eyes. That's what they're looking for. That's how you raise your status. Now, I know it's tough sometimes because you get out there and everybody wants to do their own little thing, going all the way back to Hoop Dreams. There's nothing new under the sun. This has not changed since time immemorial. And so you feel because they're pressing, you need to press, don't do it. Keep playing the game the right way, all the way while you're out there. That's what coaches notice. They might not say anything to you. You might not get a pat on the back, but when they're scribbling on their notepad, they're scribbling about, ooh, that kid over there, set great screens, rebounded out of position, made the extra pass, only scored 7 points, only took 5 shots, made all of his free throws, was a good teammate, didn't backtalk his coach. Okay, that's how you get on the radar. All the other stuff, that's all out there. People do it in your feelings. Hey, you can get away with that if you're Allen Iverson. You can get away with that if you're Imani Bates. You can get away with that if you're Ace Bailey. What did Mike Tomlin say? I'll deal with it till I can replace it. The 5-star players can do what the heck they want because they're 5-star players. The best of the rest, the other 99%, you better toe the line. You better toe the line. Hey, it's a beautiful thing. I said what I said. We're gonna be doing a little bit. We're gonna be reporting on Peach Jam, the 3-stripe circuit, the Under Armour circuit. It's right now. This is the first 2 weeks. Goes to like July 10th. So for I didn't have, this is my hoop dream. It's still there. Wish I would have had the opportunity to do it. But I wish all the folks that's going through the process the best. And just put your best foot forward and just keep getting better. Put your best foot forward and just keep getting better. There was a player that was not ranked. I've been talking to you for a while, so I got to get this player's name on the screen. There was a player who was not ranked. Let me see. Hold on. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Let's get that player on the screen. Since we're talking about the live period, and we're gonna get back to Bronny. I haven't forgotten the original question, but let's get him on the screen while we go down the line because it's an important question. It's an important point when we talk about Bronny. Yeah, that guy. Wanted to go to Virginia Tech. VCU said you can redshirt. You can redshirt. He said I'm taking my talents where I'm wanted. I'm taking my talents to North Carolina and Davidson, where I'm wanted. We're gonna build it up from there. No ranking. No rating. No rating. Okay? Doing it the right way. All right, so all the way back to Bronny. And this is also from the standpoint, Jeannie Buss is no fool. Do you see Jeannie Buss out here scared of the second apron, not signing Ayton, like some owners are doing? You see Jeannie Buss out here getting rid of Austin Reeves because of the second apron, like some people are doing? Yeah, that Wardell. That Wardell Stephon Curry. Yeah, that one. That was trusting the process. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Jeannie Buss, let's talk. Yeah, in terms of Bronny, Jeannie Buss, she's gonna get all the money. The Lakers are gonna remain profitable. What does that mean? Bronny's gonna stay on the team, and guess who's coming to the team after for the 2027 season? That's right, Bryce is gonna be on the Lakers too. Okay, Bronny is gonna be there. Bryce is gonna be there. G League 2-way, whatever you want to do it. and the whole James gang is going to be in attendance. You know whose jerseys, you know who people are going to be rocking the jerseys, selling the merchandise. Bryce has a sense of humor. He's a funny kid. You should see he did a little spoof of his dad, he's got enthusiasm. He's got charisma. He's also 6'6". Can't teach the height. And I don't have no problem with it. But in terms of minutes, you said, Dalton's got to get minutes. I just like the Lakers, they no. I think you can get Bronny some minutes on nights where guys are resting. That's a win-win. Luka's got to rest. LeBron's got, okay, so he moves up and now he's the 7th or 8th man. Go out there, and get some minutes. But him being a rotation player for the Lakers as they are competing, in the knockdown drag out West, no, that's not happening. It's not happening. Yeah, and Chris, you make a good point but here's my thing with Mark Walter, and why, he's not. Mark Walter it is a gimmick, but it's also Hollywood. And it's revenue generating. And it's not really hurting anything, to my view, because Bronny has a good attitude. And I think Bryce will have a good attitude. And LeBron, LeBron is not, his expectations, fortunately, are not outsized where he's just saying, give the kid a chance. He's on the team. He can be an energy guy. And so when there's an opportunity, let's put him out there to get some energy points. Now, the gimmick side of it is, you're throwing a dolphin into the waters with sharks. Right? So what am I saying? I'm saying that Bryce played well in the G League, you know what I mean? He's got to earn his minutes, and he can't just go out there and, turn the ball over. It has to be at least level or a minimal plus minus. It can't just be we put Bryce or Bronny out there and automatically it's a -10 every time. Do I think they can do that with the coaching and, yes, they can. I think Bronny is building himself up on select nights to get reserve energy minutes to spell starters. Now, I've been talking a lot. We had to get the Steph Curry reference. Who I think Bronny, in the best of all possible worlds, could be to earn his minutes is Jose, the short guard for the Pelicans. Jose, I was going to say Alvarez. Your boy, I'm getting too old here, man. I'm forgetting people's names. That's who I think he can be. Alvarado. I get him confused with Jose Altuve. Jose Alvarado is, the high point for Bronny for me. Okay? A mix-it-up guy that just causes havoc, gets steals, disrupts the, you know what I mean? Just gets Tommy points all the time. He's always getting Tommy points. Yeah. Jose Calderon is a little bit bigger and a little bit more of a pure point guard. Calderon's just better. I'm sorry. Calderon, was a starter, fringe starter. Yeah, Jose Alvarado is my what I'd like to see Bronny, pull off while he's out there. That's, because what am I saying? Bronny can defend. He works at defense. He's not a natural defender, right? Like he's not a Drew Holiday. And Drew Holiday's a bigger guy anyway, right? Okay, Jalen Smith. I can dig it. Have to look him up. I like Bryce. It's just, Bryce. He's bigger. He's 6'6". His game is kind of similar to Bronny. They both like to shoot the three. They're both willing passers. He's going to an Arizona program. You talk about Carter Bryant. That has dudes. Arizona. Iguodala, Richard Jefferson, Gilbert Arenas. You all the way back to Damon Stoudemire, Salim Stoudemire. Like Arizona, they just have athletes. 5-star, just, Benedict Mathurin. So we'll see how Bryce does. And I'm hoping, maybe he can, go in there, earn a starting role or a reserve role. And then we'll go from there. But that's, I think, both Bronny and Bryce, yes, they can shoot the three. They can make that open shot. But they're more run the team, make the right pass, like Iguodala type of games. Not that either one of them is the athlete that Iguodala is. Because Iguodala, when he was at Arizona, and then like Iguodala is a 5-star athlete. The James boys are not quite there. But that's how they can get minutes. So all the way back, no, he's not going to be a rotation player on this Lakers team. Yes, he can come in and give them, energy and be a good, See, I gotta use another name in terms of what I'm getting at. And in terms of what I think. And you can say, however, people feel some type of a way, but no, this is my view. And it's no Jared Dudley. Jared Dudley. Energy, enthusiasm, locker room, do what the team needs type of guy. Okay? Now, Bronny, like Jared Dudley is 6'6", 6'5". Okay, he's never been. Jared Dudley kind of reminds me of a player that's coming back to Boston. There's so much going on. There's like positive and then just devastating. So how can, you want to talk about the positive things, bringing in this kid, the rookie the Celtics are bringing in who's promising, and bringing back George Niang, who's from the Commonwealth and is a very serviceable NBA player. But I can't get excited about these things when you break up a dynasty, right? Knicks, I can't get excited about Jordan Clarkson when you jettison an elite coach without a plan B, okay? Right? I got free appetizers, but the main course is like, I couldn't get the main course because it's not, I just can't get too happy about it. So are the James brothers more athletic than Jared Dudley? Yes, Jared Dudley was never, even when he was at BC, an imposing athlete. Okay? But he had imposing intangibles and imposing professionalism, things that amount to winning. Okay? Maybe a better example than Jared Dudley, okay, that I'm looking for is a TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell type. Okay? Meaning I'm looking for Bronny to give me more defensively and energy points. And the same thing for Bryce, who's bigger, so he can do a little, you can use Bryce in a lot more different ways at 6'6" than with Bronny at 6'3", 6'2", 6'3". But that puts Bronny in some, it's tough. It's tough for Bronny at times because, he has to guard the opposing point guard. Right? Or you can put him on the shooting guard sometimes, but Bronny at 6'2", 6'3", you're going to put him on De'Aaron Fox, who's 6'5" and lightning quick. Jerome Robinson, that doesn't ring a bell for me. Chris, I got to go look him up. Look up Jerome Robinson right quick. Okay. What's he about? 6'5", 6'4"? Okay, bigger side is 6'4". BC kid, first round pick, 13th overall. All right. Yeah, I can dig it. But again, it's the challenge for Bronny that he might be up to. Again, that's why I come with Alvarado, and that's why I come with McConnell. Because Bronny is more like 6'1", 6'2". He's not. I don't look at Bronny like Steph Curry is 6'3", 6'4". I look at Bronny as 6'2", 6'3". Right? Bronny to me is the same height or maybe an inch taller than Isaiah Thomas. Whereas like Joe Dumars was like 6'3", 6'4". Like a 6'4" guy. 6'3" and change, 6'4". And I just think it makes a difference when you're talking about the range that you have in terms of, defending NBA guards who are generally speaking 6'4" and up. Right? So, yeah. Bronny, good teammate, come in, bring energy, bring buckets. Excuse me. And help the team. Okay, let's keep it moving and grooving. Some major moves. Is it being... Got to keep the additional Twitter feed. I already have one Twitter feed open, so I can X this out. I do want to talk a little bit of Gridiron. Okay. All right, let's get this for the people on the screen. We've talked about the preps. We've talked about, right? Young people, young bulls, time to shine, do it the right way. Leave all the nonsense beside you. No, this is not the one that I wanted. Thank you. Chris, to your point, I think this is how the folks in LA are feeling. You're feeling good right now, all right? Bringing in Ayton to help out. Rob Pelinka making it do what it do. So you feeling it. Rob out there making it rain. All right. We gotta make some updates. Rob said, don't test me. Don't test me when it comes to this team building. That's what Rob Pelinka says. I do what I do. Rob says I do what I do. All right, and so Ayton is headed to town. I saw people in summertime right now. Out of this July, now that people break out the dance moves, folks. Summertime, folks. We breaking into July. Break out those dance moves. Get free. I know people are still working, and I'm a little bit different. Your boy is on the vacation time, so I a lot of you folks are still 9 to 5. Hey, that's the bread and butter right there. That's the. Let me get. By the way, I got the Babson. I'm rocking Babson. Shout out to Babson College. I got this a couple summers ago. They had a event, and I came down and helped out in the event, and they gave me a shirt. Babson Hoops. It's a good experience, a good college, really good business school in the Commonwealth, and they host they have a live period for just the prep schools, which is a big deal. And they host the first weekend, which was 2 weeks ago. Last weekend it was out in Connecticut, and it was on. It was on. Tom Izzo was in the building. Shaka Smart was in the building. Kim English was in the building. Frank Martin. It's you see the top stars of tomorrow, and you see the Power 5 coaches right there. Again, speaking of live period, to make those evaluations. Okay. So yes, Steelers made a move with the Dolphins. Jalen Ramsey heading one direction. Players heading a different direction. I want to go ahead and take a look. Let me just get the particulars. We'll talk some NFL. I'm going to move over to Slice of Life. Okay, Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith bring back Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah heading to the Dolphins. Jalen and Jonnu heading to the Steelers. To me, it seems to be a win-win. Steelers known for the defense. They're gonna lock down on that side of the ball. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna be a tough out. Jonnu Smith, a safety valve for Aaron Rodgers. Dolphins, bringing in some additional defense. They're obviously more so known for the offense. Mike McDaniels. Never been to an MIT or BU basketball game, Chris. I've been up to BU to referee. I should go to more, woulda, coulda, shoulda. A lot of times I'm refereeing so much during the season. So that's why I don't always take in as many college games. MIT is, they'll play, the Ivy League schools and whatnot. MIT, it's one of the top educational institutions in the world. So, they're not always, what am I trying to say? Sometimes, like MIT, their basketball team will play some of the local Division II or Division III schools, which are good matchups. So that's when I might catch MIT. BU, I think they play in the the Patriot League, if I'm not mistaken, or the Common. I'm not sure what conference that BU is in. What mid major they're in. But I don't get up to as many of those games. If anything, I'll go to a BC game, or I'll head down to Providence, right? Take in some of the Big East. Take in some Big East action. Okay. Take a look at these NFL power rankings. Okay, got it on the one screen. And then we'll just break it down team for team. I'm sick of looking at screens. But right, Eagles, top of the board. Kansas City, no surprise. B more third. Buffalo, fourth. No surprises. Detroit, which I pushed back on. Given the fact they lost their offensive coordinator, I think that's going to hurt them. Notably, Washington behind them. I would flip Washington to Detroit. Cincinnati behind. I think Detroit's going to take a step back. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. So Detroit above. Okay. I don't know. 2 years they've had it going on and it hasn't happened. Team like Washington, a team like Cincinnati, with better quarterbacks. I have those two teams. Much as I like Campbell, much as I pull for the team, you just your window. You just keep. Detroit's the underdog. They're no longer the favorites for me. Okay, give me some of the new. Give me some Washington, Cincinnati, Green Bay, Los Angeles Chargers. I have all those teams ahead of Detroit. Okay, interesting why you feel the Rams are going to be top 3 in the NFC. I'm interested to hear that. Sean McVay knows his business as a coach. But the Rams, I look at them as as a more casual fan, I'm not privy to all the playmakers that the Rams have. I just know that Sean McVay loses playmakers like Aaron Donald, and still puts together a cohesive team that's able to go out there and make the playoffs and make things difficult for people. I look at the Rams like the Clippers. That's how I see the Rams. Just a top flight organization without top flight talent. And I'm looking in the NFC. Detroit still has the talent. They lose some things leadership wise. But Washington, with Daniels, okay, and Dan Quinn knowing his business, I see Washington on the come up. Let's go further down the list. Green Bay is on the come up. So I will defer again. not going to go 10 toes down in football because that's not my foremost competency. But Rams are what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10th in the power rankings. And I don't have a problem with that. They're the Eagles, okay, the Commanders, the Packers. Throw the Lions in there for old time's sake, and then the Rams. Okay. Interesting to me that Houston has taken a step back. Houston was all the rage. They're middle of the pack now. Minnesota, okay, not sure what they're doing at quarterback. Steelers, middle of the pack, even though they have Rodgers. That's interesting to me. So let's stay there. Are the Steelers going to make the playoffs? Will the Steelers make the playoffs? And for this, we do need. No, I'm not gonna. Power rankings will stay. Will the Steelers make the? I just need ESPN, not ESPN Plus. Just ESPN. Thank you. Let's take a look, and then we'll stay in the NFC. Stay in the AFC North, and then we will. We'll do some power ranking. We are doing the power ranking stuff. We'll do the slice of life, and that will. Okay. So Steelers, you brought in Aaron Rodgers, serviceable quarterback. Say he stays healthy, does what he's supposed to do. Doesn't have anybody to throw to. Okay. So essentially, AFC, who is not going to make the playoffs? What teams that were eliminated, i.e. Cincinnati, might take the Steelers' spot? Because Cincinnati's a playoff team with Joe and Joe Burrow. Do they have the team around him? No, but, Joe and Joe Burrow, healthy, playoffs. Okay, so that's one where they edged out Cincy last year. Can they edge out Cincy again this year? Question mark. Miami Dolphins, again, got Tyreek Hill, issues off the field aside. Miami Dolphins, playoff team? To my thinking, AFC South, Houston against the world. No problem, that's going to be the same. But then, Chris, to your point, AFC West getting 3 teams, Chargers, Harbaugh leadership, Broncos, Sean Payton leadership. So, much as I like Mike Tomlin, Steelers, the culture, the tradition, the history, I'm having a hard time saying they're a better team than the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow. I'm having a hard time saying Aaron Rodgers in his last year, after he's already had his career, is going to take away a playoff appearance from a Joe Burrow who is still trying to build his legacy. Okay, Jacksonville and the Jets, lottery on 3. Okay? Jacksonville, you have the quarterback of the future whose future is uncertain in that city. Okay, but no. And the Jets just, got rid of a capable coach in Salah, have this great defense. You don't have a defensive-oriented coach to lead them. You're in the same division with Buffalo and Miami, and a Patriots team who's going to be better. So Jets are in the Arch Manning sweepstakes. The Jets are in the march for Arch. Most certainly. Cleveland's in the march for Arch with 18 quarterbacks, including Shedeur Sanders. The AFC is an absolute juggernaut with the haves and the have-nots. And you look at Miami being eliminated. I mean, that's Mike McDaniels is not in Miami with his sophisticated offense to not make the playoffs. So Miami's got to try to get in there. Cincinnati, you have one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, but some would say top 3. How are you going to have a top 3, top 5 quarterback and not make the playoffs? I'm Cincinnati. Okay, Cincinnati, right. They just want to outscore everybody. And okay. So, I was of the mind, and you say, hear things about Cincinnati, second-rate organization. They don't have an indoor training facility, on and on and on. We'll talk about Lamar. I'll believe it when I see it. But okay, point taken. What I'm saying, get the defense. You cannot have a top 5 quarterback and not make the playoffs. If you have a top 5 quarterback and don't make the playoffs, that top 5 quarterback needs to leave. He needs to leave. So Cincinnati, you got to do right by Joe Burrow. And the AFC North, it's these divisions are just, the West loaded, North loaded, AFC East no slouch with Buffalo and Miami. I like Mike Tomlin. Respect the Steelers, the Rooneys. They back it up, word and deed. They came through for Brian Flores, which resonated with me. Do I think Brian Flores got an unfair shake with Miami? Yes. Do I think he needed to sue Miami? I understand why he sued them. I just think it's one of these. Mike McDaniels was the better coach for that team. You needed an offensive coach. That's Mike McDaniels. Steve Wilkes got a bad deal in Arizona when they brought in Cliff Kingsbury, but Cliff Kingsbury was the right coach for Kyler Murray. Steve Wilkes also got another bad deal when he brought stability after they got rid of Matt Rule, and then they got rid of him, and they haven't had a good team since. So I can understand the raging frustration of African-American coaches in the NFL. I can understand. And it's a situation whereas what should happen is, they should get second opportunities, which they're not, which only adds more fuel to the inferno of unfairness and racism and disrespect, right? If you can concede that Cliff Kingsbury was the right coach for Kyler Murray to help Arizona in that, and it did glean results, and Mike McDaniels has gleaned results in Miami, and he's the right coach for that team, then it can also be established that Steve Wilkes and Brian Flores are NFL head coach that should have received opportunities after they were jettisoned for no good reason. But they haven't received NFL opportunities in the coaching carousel. But they should have, because they were capable coaches in their given roles, but they haven't. Again, so, the situation in Miami, do I feel like it's a racist organization? And no, I don't. Okay, but I can understand where Brian Flores is coming from, and it's overdue for him to have his next opportunity, as coaches get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. Okay, I have no problem with Mike Vrabel being the Patriots head coach, but he lost an opportunity and got another opportunity. Where is that for the African American head coaches? Right? So respect to the Steelers for when Brian Flores was going through his go-through with the Dolphins. They brought him in. No, you're an NFL head coach. And now Brian Flores is with Minnesota, building them up. Minnesota had a tremendous year, and he's an NFL head coach, and he needs an opportunity. I say all that to say I don't think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. Even though they did everything that they were supposed to do to make the playoffs, I don't think they're making the playoffs. I put Miami and Cincinnati over them. Tell me I'm wrong, folks. They just happen to be in a stacked conference where somebody's got to get the short end of the stick. And it's tough for Pittsburgh because they're not going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to be bad enough to get Arch Manning, who they, that would be awesome. That the Steelers would get Arch Manning, and then they could now, with Arch, go toe-to-toe, with the Baltimores and the Cincy's of the world. But with quarterback by committee, I don't have them competing with Baltimore and Cincinnati. The NFC, okay? Philly and Washington will remain. Detroit still going to be in the mix, even though with the coaching losses. Minnesota takes a step back. Green Bay takes a step forward. The South, I like Michael Penix. I got Atlanta taking a step forward. Buccaneers maybe holding firm. Baker there doing his thing. And then the West, Niners, okay, rebuilding. Seattle and Arizona rebuilding. The Rams with continuity and Sean McVay to hang around. That's what I have on the NFL, folks. It's 1 o'clock in the Eastern, first day of July. TJ Watt trade, Steelers, what are you doing? I'm not sure. TJ Watt, heart and soul guy, get it done guy. Okay, Chicago on the come up in the NFC North with 3 teams that are, so are you going to have 4 good teams? I have Minnesota, taking a step back, you bring in McCarthy, Darnold goes, the young kid comes in. NFC North, are they going to have 4 solid teams? I like Caleb. Hopefully so. So NFL not for long, and it's just they seem to just have a lot of good teams and competing in playoff worthy teams. Different than the NBA where you just have 5, 6, 7, 8 dumpster fires. It just seems less so in the NFL, which, that's the parity that they have. That goes a long way to generating, among other things, the ratings that they receive. And so that's where we'll leave the NFL. Let's go ahead, slice of life to conclude. And let's see where we begin. Okay, not there. So many things to get to. Start with stay in the NBA. Let's talk a little bit about sacrifice.
Learn is like the direct correlation between sacrifice and winning basketball.
Everybody wants to sacrifice until it's their turn. What are you willing to do to win? This was a growing pain, losing the way we did, but looking at the season as a whole, there was a lot of progression and a lot of fronts by a lot of people in our group. I'm not going to say because of me, Evan did this or DG did that. Like, no, they worked their tails off in their own right to be who they are.
Yes,
Them
sir.
allowing me to lead in that way, I think was special. You know what I mean? I think for me as a leader, you can only lead if guys allow you to. You know what I mean? They could easily just be like, no, we're not listening to what you got to say, whatever. So I had the utmost respect for my teammates in that regard for allowing me to do that. And then on the flip side, I think they'd say the same because, I feel like not many guys would want to just take a step back and be like, nah, like, go ahead. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that's what ultimately played into our group success, team success, and, now continue to take that into the playoffs.
What did you learn is like the direct correlation between sacrifice and winning basketball.
Everybody wants to sacrifice until it's their turn.
Yes, sir.
What are you willing to do to win? This was a growing pain, losing the way we did, but looking at the season as a whole, there was a lot of progression and a lot of fronts by a lot of people in our group. I'm not going to say because of me, Evan did this or DG did that. Like, no, they worked their tails off in their own right to be who they are. Them allowing me to lead in that way, I think was special. You know what I mean? I think for me as a leader, you can only lead if guys allow you to. You know what I mean? They could easily just be like, no, we're not listening to what you got to say, whatever. So I had the utmost respect for my teammates in that regard for allowing me to do that. And then on the flip side, I think they'd say the same because, I feel like not many guys would want to just take a step back and be like, nah, like, go ahead. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that's what ultimately played into our group success, team success, and, now continue to take that into the playoffs.
Right? Is Cleveland panicking? Is Cleveland terrified of the second apron? They're going to blow it up? No, they're running it back. After a disastrous loss, they're running it back. Celtics are blowing it up. Again, I want feedback if you have it, but that's how I see it clear as day. Gonna run it back. Okay, let's talk about changing face of the league.
Every other continent is getting older and Africa is getting younger. There's something there. Yes, there's something that will change and we have to pay attention to that. To say 1 out of every 4 people is going to be African by 2050, let's go back and really think about that. And think about the talent that comes from there. When I say that there's 100 LeBrons and 100 Embiids walking around Africa and we haven't been discovered, listen to Embiid's story and he says how he was close to not being here. Yes, very close to not being here. There are some of them that are 30 years old, 40 years old, and maybe they never saw a basketball, but they are this tall and they are physically like this big. And yes, but they never saw a basketball because there was no infrastructure, right? Yeah, there was nowhere to play. Why do you think Africans dominate the world in soccer? Because as soon as we come, if I bring a football right now, me and Embiid now will show an exhibition to all of you here. Every other continent is getting older and Africa is getting younger. There's something there. Yes, there's something that will change and we have to pay attention to that. To say 1 out of every 4 people is going to be African by 2050, let's go back and really think about that. And think about the talent that comes from there. When I say that there's 100 LeBrons and 100 Embiids walking around Africa and we haven't been discovered, listen to Embiid's story and he says how he was close to not being here. Yes, very close to not being here. There are some of them that are 30 years old, 40 years old, and maybe they never saw a basketball, but they are this tall and they are physically like this big. And yes, but they never saw a basketball because there was no infrastructure, right? Yeah.
Some solid points. Obviously, Masai Ujiri knows his business. And there's two things that I want to add. I mean, there's been, I want to go back to the Kembe Mutombo, Manute Bowl, right? So the NBA didn't just wake up and realize, wow, there's a lot of, incredible athletes in Africa or incredible athletes in Europe or there's incredible athletes all over the world. All right, so let's, but what I think has changed under the leadership of David Stern and now Adam Silver is that, this global vision for the NBA, the global vision for basketball, and the academies, in different parts of the world, the networks now connecting the different parts of the world directly back to the NBA, to just continually increase that talent pool, getting higher and higher, harder and harder to get one of those jobs. That's why I have no problem with expansion. Add 2 more teams because we need more roster spots. Because the competition is that fierce, to even be considered to be into the NBA, right? As a player. Now there's other opportunities, coaching, broadcasting, training, youth development, right? The rising tide is for everybody. But in terms of being in the arena, that guy, the next Giannis, the next Anthony Edwards, the next Shai Gill, that is harder than it's ever been. As the game is truly global and resembling, as I've said before, soccer more. But soccer has a number of different, right? Soccer has a number of different, like, outstanding leagues, Bundesliga, Premier League. The NBA is the Mecca, the place. So admittance there is at an all-time high, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Better basketball, and it being earned, and there's money in the game all over the place. There's money in the game all over the place for you, and you got to make sure that you make the best of your opportunity and not thinking things are going to last forever. Got to make the best of that opportunity and not believe it's going to last forever. And so okay, so we're going to stay. All right, first, hold on. I already got it. So let's talk about a little bit about what teams are ducking for cover and what teams are standing pat to continue winning. Let's talk about that.
The Celtics also traded Kristaps Porzingis. Listen, this is all about the second apron. People said they didn't want super teams anymore. Well, here you have it. All these moves are being made to dodge that second apron. It's a hard cap. You lose draft picks. You lose the mid-level exception. You lose roster spots. You lose the ability to get better and compete as a team. And the amount of money that you lose is insane. And when I said this, before the deal was signed, this is ridiculous, and it's going to hurt players in the end. No one wanted to listen, and everybody wanted to act like the PA was making a great deal. The PA made a shit deal, as the PA has done for years now. And every year, the pot gets bigger, and the business gets better, and the players get screwed more. That's just how this business works. Back to the Boston Celtics. That's what all of these moves are about, people. That's why they got rid of Porzingis. That's why they got rid of Drew Holiday. That's why you're hearing so many people call on Jaylen Brown. You're hearing so many people call on Derek White. It's because they know they want to get away from that second apron tax. You trade for Anthony Simons, I think, listen, they're the Boston Celtics. They got to be competitive, but at the end of the day, it's an expiring deal, cap situation, all of those things.
Say it again, Draymond. No, we need to run that
The
back.
Celtics also traded Kristaps Porzingis. Listen, this is all about the second apron. People said they didn't want super teams anymore. Well, here you have it. All these moves are being made to dodge that second apron. It's a hard cap. You lose draft picks. You lose the mid-level exception. You lose roster spots. You lose the ability to get better and compete as a team. And the amount of money that you lose is insane. And when I said this, before the deal was signed, this is ridiculous, and it's going to hurt players in the end. No one wanted to listen, and everybody wanted to act like the PA was making a great deal. The PA made a shit deal, as the PA has done for years now. And every year, the pot gets bigger, and the business gets better, and the players get screwed more. That's just how this business works. Back to the Boston Celtics. That's what all of these moves are about, people. That's why they got rid of Porzingis. That's why they got rid of Drew Holiday. That's why you're hearing so many people call on Jaylen Brown. You're hearing so many people call on Derek White. It's because they know they want to get away from that second apron tax. You trade for Anthony Simons, I think, listen, they're the Boston Celtics. They got to be competitive, but at the end of the day, it's an expiring deal, cap situation, all of those things.
All right, thank you, Draymond. Again, I'm a basketball fanatic. I didn't ask for a second apron. Who asked for a second apron? I didn't have a problem with the team in Golden State. That wasn't, obviously KD going there made it just, DEFCON 5. But so what? Other teams made moves. Like, we've had teams, players loading up. I didn't have, so the NBA, to Draymond's point, we didn't, it's stupid. I don't know who the second apron is benefiting. I don't know why Boston, and I'll say it, and I keep saying it, is overreacting, particularly for a new ownership group. To the point of dismantle. I mean, now it's. I've given you my takes on Boston. Okay. And hopefully it doesn't spread beyond Boston. Because then, you have to go back and just get rid of it, because that's the, what is the point of a team building up a championship team over years? Do you forget that the Celtics were favored to win the championship going all the way back to when Kyrie and Gordon Hayward were here? Then you had Kemba Walker a couple years. Then, 2023 disaster when you get smacked by Miami. How long it took to get that team? We act like it happened overnight. It's a decade of building up to really have something. Denver, all the years that they weren't healthy, going back to the bubble. And the first year that Denver is actually healthy, they win a championship. They got mad dogged by Minnesota last year, but now this year they're right back in the mix, and they're making moves to stay in the mix. This is over 10 years of building to get into contention. And the geniuses with the second apron, you just throw all that away after year 2? This is your financial wizardry? It's I don't even know what it is. Okay? It's ineffective. If you have teams that are well built and well constructed and nobody's complaining, I don't think anybody was storming the gates because the Celtics had a team that looked like the 80s. I don't think anybody was leaving, was running out of arenas. I'm not sure what injustice I missed or the basketball community missed. All right, folks, let's take a look at the business side of basketball. Just go run through these. But this caught my eye. I can't not mention it. Pat Connaughton, who is a reserve player, team first guy, hard worker. So this is a decade ago. He's a good baseball player for Notre Dame. Received a contract and a signing bonus. I don't know how much baseball he played. Played a couple years of basketball, played a couple years of baseball, switched back to basketball. Starts a real estate firm on a modest contract and begins going to work investing. Invest in real estate. So, essentially, and you're reading it along with me here. I don't have to read it all. You can see $92 million project, a $70 million project, $17 million project. Okay, all to accumulate a portfolio of $500 million. Now, again, listen. That's what the portfolio is now. You have recessions, okay, so on and forth. But considerable assets is the point. He has to continue to manage them, right? Housing bubble here, right? But here's my point with this. In a league where 7 out of 10 players, or 6 out of 10, upwards of half the league is in financial distress 5 years after retirement. Here's a guy with a modest salary who essentially says, I'm going to have 2 jobs. I'm going to have 2 jobs that I love, by the way. I'm going to play a kid's game for a living and act like and appreciate the fact that I'm playing a kid's game for a living and have an upbeat, positive attitude. Yes, it's a grind. Yes, it's hard. Yes, you have to travel an insane amount of times and you're away from your family. But by and large, you live a very privileged life. Comparatively, exceedingly. And so I'm going to look at it that way. And in my free time, I'm going to devote myself and my energies and my efforts to investing. Okay. Now, again, right? Is he, a billionaire? No. But a player with modest earnings, building himself up to have this type of portfolio, to be able to maintain it, it's another side to the, so we're not just talking about players that burn through their money with conspicuous consumption, Okay, fashionable consumption, whatever term you want to use. You're talking about somebody that maintained his working class hero mindset even after he ceased to become a working class hero, to produce to sustain the generational wealth that he received. Let's keep it going. Talk about crossing the T's.
Some business that taught you the most.
Not reading myself.
Contract type.
Just contracts, just agreements, like whatever. Just like me not reading myself, putting things in other people's hands that I should have looked over before I put it in somebody else's hand. It's one of the biggest mistakes I made.
Ooh, I trust my lawyer, don't get me wrong. But
I trust my lawyer too, but I trust myself more than anybody.
what was your biggest loss in business that taught you the most?
Not reading myself.
Contract type.
Just contracts, just agreements, like whatever. Just like me not reading myself, putting things in other people's hands that I should have looked over before I put it in somebody else's hand. It's one of the biggest mistakes I made.
Ooh, I trust my lawyer, don't get me wrong. But
I trust my lawyer too, but I trust myself more than anybody.
what was your big?
Again, you know, you have the get to jobs, great job, but you know, the management. Okay, some more perspective. Stay on the financial side.
Billionaires because of partnerships. White billionaires became billionaires because of ownership.
Innovation.
It's a different. You seen what happened with Ye. They could take a partnership away. Now you're not a billionaire anymore. You see what happened with Diddy. You can't take Elon Musk because it's ownership. He has ownership of the company. It's in the stock market. There's 5,000 companies that's on the stock market. 7 are black. 7 out of 5,000.
And that's a decrease. It used to be 12.
They did sever ties with Ye, but they still had to pay him out.
No, but I'm saying he lost his billionaire status because it was tied to Yeezy brand, right? And Yeezy brand was Adidas. So he owned 100% of Yeezy, but it was really nothing without Adidas. So when Adidas severed his ties, because people look at a billionaire, it's not like he had $1 billion and he's just swimming in it like Scrooge McDuck. Like it goes by the valuation of your company. So they could devalue your company at any given time. Now they take away $600 million overnight. This has happened 2 times in the last 4 years with black people. Because like I said, our billionaires are not billionaires from ownership. Our billionaires are billionaires from partnership.
I agree with you 100%. The only reason I don't like using those 2 examples because they made poor choices.
No, but a lot of people make poor choices. Donald Sterling, he made poor choices, but he got richer.
I made more money.
But that's what I mean.
Richer.
You can't sell it, but that's what I mean. Like that's the
you
same
can't
thing.
sell what you don't own.
But Ye sold his portions of Yeezy.
No, you can't sell.
Remember when he had all of the backlog with Adidas and they had to still
Merchandise.
use him?
The merchandise.
Yeah, they still had to use
But
them.
I'm talking about the actual equity in the company. You can't sell what you don't own. All a facade.
But
All of our billionaires became billionaires because of partnerships. White billionaires became billionaires because of ownership.
Innovation.
It's a different. You seen what happened with Ye. They could take a partnership away. Now you're not a billionaire anymore. You see what happened with Diddy. You can't take Elon Musk because it's ownership. He has ownership of the company. It's in the stock market. There's 5,000 companies that's on the stock market. 7 are black. 7 out of 5,000.
And that's a decrease. It used to be 12.
They did sever ties with Ye, but they still had to pay him out.
No, but I'm saying he lost his billionaire status because it was tied to Yeezy brand, right? And Yeezy brand was Adidas. So he owned 100% of Yeezy, but it was really nothing without Adidas. So when Adidas severed his ties, because people look at a billionaire, it's not like he had $1 billion and he's just swimming in it like Scrooge McDuck. Like it goes by the valuation of your company. So they could devalue your company at any given time. Now they take away $600 million overnight. This has happened 2 times in the last 4 years with black people. Because like I said, our billionaires are not billionaires from ownership. Our billionaires are billionaires from partnership.
I agree with you 100%. The only reason I don't like using those 2 examples because they made poor choices.
No, but a lot of people make poor choices. Donald Sterling, he made poor choices, but he got richer.
I made more money.
But that's what I mean.
Richer.
You can't sell it, but that's what I mean. Like that's the
you
same
can't
thing.
sell what you don't own.
But Ye sold his portions of Yeezy.
No, You can't sell.
Remember when he had all of the backlog with Adidas and they had to still use him?
The merchandise.
Yeah, they still had to use
But
him.
I'm talking about the actual equity in the company. You can't sell what you don't own. All a facade.
But what
All of our billion.
Some hard-hitting stuff right there. Perspective-wise, it's really 5,000. That's the type of perspective, you know, and good, bad, whatever your politics are. Anytime it's crazy. You know, anytime you bring up all of these things are intertwined. So you bring up a point, we're like, okay, but, you know, you don't like talking about something, but sometimes people, you like your investments that you don't talk about over here, making you a boatload of money quietly. But then you try to have a conversation sometimes, but you're interjecting this and that. So I just, that's how I feel when you try to have more nuanced conversations and immediately somebody runs in. You can't be having that conversation at all. Meanwhile, the substance of that conversation benefits that individual, you know, markedly. They just don't talk about it. So that's how I feel about that. You know, and people feel free, if you have an issue with that take, let me know. But that's my rejoinder for when people say, you know, well, you're in sports and politics, they're different things. I get that. You know, and it's a fine line that you have to walk. But the intersection of sports and politics and sports and economics is a rising tide for both. Okay? Because it fascinates people that LeBron James is going to make $58 million next year to play a kid's game. And they think about that, they talk about that, and that's reason for them to engage with the NBA. Okay? Which rises the NBA's overall, right? That person is not interested, engaged, so on and forth. And the substance of that conversation might enlighten that individual. Oh, LeBron makes $58 million because of this, that, this type of investment, that caveat in his contract, and that person learned something. So the more nuanced the conversation, the richer the results is my view. Okay, so this hard hitting in terms of the perspective, 5,000 companies and only 7 owned by an African American. That's so I didn't know that. And then, you know, the stock market's right. No, those are just the demographic breakups. A, and then B, you know, of course, it's not always what you know, it's who you know. And when you're trying to, you know, sometimes those cultural distinctions do not allow things to get done. Other times, yes. Sometimes the answer is no. So on the money side, and we're going to stay on the money side, solid perspective. What the heck? No. Come on back. This is the wrong. Okay, let's come here. Now we're really going to switch beats. Stay on the money side.
These so-called fake influencers talking about money like it ain't nothing when they don't have any money themselves. I mean, somebody selling you books and tapes to tell you how to get rich. I mean, just knock it off. Like this one brother, my brother Roland Martin and I were talking about this one brother. I don't want to blow him up because I think he means well, but he says, you know, $100,000 is not nothing. What are you talking about? What world do you live in? I'm rich, and I'm telling you $100,000. I'm actually wealthy, and I don't throw around $100,000. I mean, I pay very few of my employees $100,000. It requires a significant achievement. So to say that $100,000 is not nothing, what are you smoking? The wealthiest country in the world, the sole superpower in the world, right, is $45,000. Hello, if you're African American, there are only 6% of African Americans, like 4% below 10%, who make $100,000 a year. And now, if you have a bachelor's degree, an advanced degree, then that increases to 16%. But if you have less than a bachelor's degree, like some education above high school, that degree increases to 2%. So who are you out here saying that, you know, $100,000 is not a lot. Or ladies, you're saying you won't marry a dude unless he makes six figures. You may be alone for your whole life. And you may walk right past the dude who eats this for dinner. Now, I'm sitting in a multi-million-dollar house, right, on acres. And I'm whoever I am, right? It's easy to check me out. I can afford to eat what I want. I'm eating chicken pot pie tonight by choice, right? I'm not throwing away money. I'm tired of all these so-called fake influencers talking about money like it ain't nothing when they don't have any money themselves. I mean, somebody selling you books and tapes to tell you how to get rich. I mean, just knock it off. Like this one brother, my brother Roland Martin and I were talking about this one brother. I don't want to blow him up because I think he means well, but he said, $100,000 is not nothing. What are you talking about? What world do you live in? I'm rich, and I'm telling you $100,000. I'm actually wealthy, and I don't throw around $100,000. I mean, I pay very few of my employees $100,000. It requires a significant achievement. So to say that $100,000 is not nothing, what are you smoking? The wealthiest country in the world, the sole superpower in the world, right, is $45,000. Hello, if you're African American, there are only 6% of African Americans, 4% below 10% who make $100,000 a year. And now, if you have a bachelor's degree, an advanced degree, then that increases to 16%. But if you have less than a bachelor's degree, like some education above high school, that degree increases to 2%. So who are you out here saying that, $100,000 is not a lot? Or ladies, you're saying you won't marry a dude unless he makes six figures. You may be alone for your whole life. And you may walk right past the dude who eats this for dinner. Now, I'm sitting in a multi-million-dollar house, right, on acres. And I'm whoever I am, right? It's easy to check me out. I can afford to eat what I want. I'm eating chicken pot pie tonight by choice, right? I'm not throwing away money. I'm tired of all these so-called fake influencers.
Okay, that was a lot. First of all, we got to start from the end. Because one thing, we're going to start from the end and just deconstruct back what I can, because he just said so much, can't get to everything. But a wise man once told me, a man and a can is a plan. Yes, sir. A man and a can is a plan. He out there, man, chicken, he chefed up had his can, warmed that thing up, had his crackers over there right now. I'm good. And he said, and now I am not rich or wealthy. Let's just put that out there. Irregardless of what you might heard. But he said, I'm not rich. I'm actually wealthy. Meaning he makes other people rich that work with him, while he is in that other echelon of wealthy. And I believe it when he said it. But then just some of the breakdowns kind of all the way back. I think this is a connecting point to, talking about Pat Connaughton. James Harden has talked about this. When you get money, these athletes, these young athletes, these high school athletes with this NIL money, yes, you too, as we're in the live period, these high school kids walking around with six figures in their pocket because they're already getting that NIL money. And this perspective, that $100,000, that's, and James Harden talked about, like he said, listen, Harden was like, I get my information from, the owner of the Sixers, the owner, like Bomber. That's who I listen to. Everybody looks at me, James Harden, you see my max deal, like I'm the Don Dada. Okay, I'm just the help. I'm just rich. The Don Dada, you don't know who the Don Dadas are. You've seen them all the way back to this about Cape Cod, which is interesting about Cape Cod. Me walking around town, beautiful, sunny outside. I've seen billionaires that I have no idea that these people are billionaires. The numbers, it has to be true. Because there's so many of them here that just pass through. Billionaires. Now, we know just living here, like that person has money. There's, you don't know. I mean, because, and that, first of all, I don't really care. Also, I'm trying to keep myself straight. So let's just keep that a buck. I go in town. I got my little spots, my local people. I am good. I'm good. I'm good to see my people. I support my local restaurant. I'm thrilled. Happy I can pay the tab and a little bit of tip. When things I pay, I give a little tip. That's important. I'm good. But yeah, walking around here, the North, Cape Cod, specifically the Northeast in general, like you're just around funny money, old money, generational money, where it's just a completely different, now, again, we talk, it's just completely different worldview, mindset, everything, right? I would be, who knows what I would be, first of all, you never know, so be careful what you wish for, you might get it. But Adam Sandler, who comes down to the Cape, has a house here, by all accounts, across the board, just good dude. You get multiple reports of him going out and just paying the tab at everybody in the restaurant. He goes out to local Wimpy's, he just paid everybody's tab. Everybody's eating for free. And then you're getting like 20, 30, 40%. Everybody is getting $100, $200, $500, $1,000. Like, go out and spend literally $20,000. Buying everybody's meal, paying everybody's tip, 20 stacks. And that gesture of kind, but like in the grand scheme of things, no impact. He's still hundreds of millions of dollars, going to be worth hundreds of, but very generous and just, man, like pay it forward, keep working hard, stay to the grind, encouraging with his affluence. You always say if you got something, you want to carry it like that. But the point, back to his point is what he's deconstructing and debunking is this idea that $100,000 is not a lot of money. And frankly, that's probably part of, because when you think about people that have hundreds of millions of dollars, myself, I'm like, yeah, $100,000 is not really that much when you have hundreds of millions of dollars. He, as somebody who has tens and possibly hundreds of millions of dollars, is telling you, no, that is not the way you look at it. Any sum of money is a lot of money, and to be treated respectfully, fearfully, wisely. And that is a, very strong point that he made. Now, you hear other, and that kind of, there's other things that go on. I'll just say, because you hear one point that I'll make, and I don't have these clips right now, but we'll get the clips for you. I'll see. I might have to scroll up to get it. When we talk about the millennials versus the baby boomers, and the baby boomers saying, well, the reason that you are in the financial position is because you have all these luxuries like Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and that's because you got the Dunkin' Donuts coffee. That's the reason. No, the reason that never mind. We're not going to talk about politics in the big beautiful bill. We're not going to do that right now. But the reason is that generations ago, you could pay for your college on the part-time job or on the job that you had in the summer. And the cost of things has just gone bananas. That's a part of, everything has just gone, oh yeah, you had your good company job working here and you could buy things with that good company job and support a family and not have to work. So, it's not the 6, or 3 old-fashioned donuts that I get on the ride home from work is the reason that we are in financial, there's been certain transfers of wealth. I don't think that's what he's saying, but I think anytime you talk, you're saying that, spend too much time, on your subscriptions, you paid for that Hulu subscription. And that's the reason why, there's shifts that have taken place that are also need to be factored in, but no lies detected, certainly. And I learned quite a bit. Couple more of these. Gonna bump up ad in here. Break free.
to get stuff done. At every level, people who are very good at describing problems, people who are very sophisticated in explaining why something went wrong or why something can't get fixed. But what I'm always looking for is, no matter how small the problem or how big it is, somebody who says, let me take care of that. If you project an attitude of whatever it is that's needed, I can handle it and I can do it, whoever's running that organization will notice, I promise. You don't always need to be so impatient asking for the plum assignment. A lot of times the best way to get attention is whatever is assigned to you, you are just nailing. You're killing it, because people will notice, oh, that's somebody who can get something done. Just learn how to get stuff done. At every level, people who are very good at describing problems, people who are very sophisticated in explaining why something went wrong or why something can't get fixed. But what I'm always looking for is, no matter how small the problem or how big it is, somebody who says, let me take care of that. If you project an attitude of whatever it is that's needed, I can handle it and I can do it, whoever's running that organization will notice, I promise. You don't always need to be so impatient asking for the plum assignment. A lot of times the best way to get attention is whatever is assigned to you, you are just nailing. You're killing it, because people will notice, oh, that's somebody who can get something done. Just learn how to get.
Watch this clip before. Don't have a problem watching it again. And again, she's saying similar premise as before. You master those little things, and that's what sets you up to be able to, when you get to the higher levels. Interest of full disclosure, I'm usually the one that's describing the problem, rather than having the mindset. Don't tell me about a problem unless you have a solution. Okay. Don't tell me about that problem unless you have a solution. We're going to finish. Speaking of solutions, gonna wrap on up talking about solutions.
Bird is the next competitor in this semifinal round. Bird shooting 39% in game three-pointers on the year. He has 1 minute, 25
Miss.
balls.
Hold on. Miss.
It's always nice to hit the first one.
Miss. Miss. All right, now let's lock in.
Got the big two-point ball, however, at the end.
Well,
let's
this
lock
is your
in.
guy, Rick, and he's always been able to perform well under pressure, and he usually picks up steam with these rats.
Well, there's 2 in a row, 3 in a row. Let's see how many he can come up with. 4, including the two-pointer. 8 points for Bird now. He's got 30 seconds left on the 60-second shot clock. And he's got the rhythm going right now. Bird's got 13 points with 20 seconds remaining.
Well, he's not getting to the rack too quickly, but he's able to get a lot of shots out of them very fast.
That's because of the groove he gets in. That set shot, he doesn't waste a lot of effort.
18 points for Bird, 8 seconds left.
19 and counting, make it 20.
And he gets the two-pointer. Unofficially, 23 points for Larry Bird. That's only 2 points short of the record 25. The maximum you can get is 30 if you hit every shot. So the hired assassin with a sharp eye.
Young Danny.
On target today.
You see Larry finishing off. Look at that smooth rhythm. The shot, 1 step back, pick it up, the shot. Back and forth. He is like a machine. And the results are almost like a machine. He's really got it down to a science. Larry Bird, the leader. We're in the semifinal round. Larry Bird is the next competitor in this semifinal round.
Don't tell me about a problem unless you have a solution. Tell me about no problem unless you have a solution.
Bird shooting 39% in game three-pointers on the year. He has 1 minute, 25 balls. It's always nice to hit the first one, but Larry not being able to get in the groove yet.
Got the big two-point ball, however, at the end. Well, this is your guy, Rick, and he's always been able to perform well under pressure, and he usually picks up steam with these rats.
Well, there's 2 in a row, 3 in a row. Let's see how many he can come up with. 4,
including the two-pointer. 8 points for Bird now.
He's got 30 seconds left on the 60-second shot clock. And he's got the rhythm going right now. And Bird's got 13 points with 20 seconds remaining. Now, he's not getting to the rack too quickly, but he's able to get a lot of shots out of him very fast. That's because of the groove he gets in. That set shot, he doesn't waste a lot of effort.
8 seconds.
18 points for Bird, 8 seconds left.
19 and counting, make it 20.
And he gets the two-pointer. Unofficially.
Had to run that back, folks. Larry Legend. I ain't seen no problems out there. I saw quite a few solutions. Quite a few solutions. And so, hey, it's what it is. It's tough. It's challenging, right? It's a battle, the daily grind. Certainly know it, even though I'm on my leisure, at my leisure currently. But, you know, as a friend of mine once said, you got to win at the margins, right? And you got to, hey, nothing too little, nothing too low. Yes, indeed, folks.